Everyone to the June meeting of the Greencastle Common Council. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome everyone. We do have a fairly lengthy agenda this evening, so I would ask that anyone who comes forward to make a presentation, that the presentation be crisp, if at all possible. So, Linda, can you call the roll?
Councillor Mark Hammer.
Here.
Councillor Adam Cohen.
Here.
Councillor Stacy Langdon. Here. Councillor Veronica Pedram.
Here.
Councillor Cody Eckert.
Here.
Councillor Dave Murray.
Here.
And Councillor Jacob Widener.
Here.
Is there anyone in the audience that has a public petition or comment that would like to come forward for an item that's not on the agenda? Mr. Ware?
My name is David Ware, as you probably know. I'd like to discuss the handicap parking situation. We don't enforce handicap parking at Kroger, Walmart, Tractor Supply, and you see people going in and out of there, parking in the blue zone. There was a lady the other day with a handicapped child, and somebody parked in the blue zone, and she had to wait almost 20 minutes just so she could load her child up. And we need to do something about it. And I've heard all the stories about, well, you can't enforce on private property. It's not true. It's just not true. If you require them to have it, you need to enforce it. Is there a reason why it's not enforced?
Okay, I can't answer that right now. I'd have to research the law and take a look at that to see based on comments made.
If you need me to get affidavits from those property owners, I will, because it needs to happen. You see these young kids pull in there in their grandma's car and jump out of the car and run into Kroger. And I asked one the other day, I said, what's your ailment? Oh, I don't have one. This is my grandma's car. They think it's okay. They have no idea. They think it's just fine. As long as the car's got a tag on it, they can park wherever they want.
I think
I've made my speech.
Well,
And please do something about it.
yeah, we'll look into it. Thank you for Tom. Can you come forward, maybe add to the conversation?
It's warm in here.
I will do research, but I've always been under the understanding that it's private property, we can't enforce it. But I will also say this: if nobody calls the police department or the dispatch center and makes a complaint, we don't know about it. When we have 2 to 3 officers that are patrolling the city the whole day long, I mean, we don't have time to drive through private parking lots looking for that. But if you see that it's an offense and that someone's there and it doesn't look like they're handicapped and they're using the vehicle, I mean, we can at least talk to them. But I don't want to violate their rights either, saying they're not handicapped when they may be, because I don't know.
There were 2 Jeeps full of college kids at Walmart. I called the police. They came, and he was there just right like that. And he told me I can't enforce it. He said because it's our policy that we don't enforce handicap parking on private property.
I've always been instructed that unless the city has a contract with the people who own the private property, we don't enforce it. But I will do some research and see if the law has changed in regards to the state. Okay?
If you need the affidavits, I'll get them. Do you enforce shoplifting?
Yes, that's a crime.
So is handicap parking.
well, we enforce shoplifting when we're called, though, Tom. Correct?
Correct.
We're not out
We're not.
It's a criminal offense also.
staking out the retail stores.
If they call you, if a retail store called you, you would respond.
Yeah.
If somebody would call and complain that someone is parked in the handicap spot and they don't appear to be handicapped, we would at least send an officer out there to investigate.
Okay.
Our handicap parking is under our ordinances, not the state statute, not criminal statutes like the shoplifting would be.
I think the question.
Parking is a federal law.
I think the question was, what about what happens on private property?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, but if there's something to, we'll look into that.
Is there anyone else? Thank you for bringing that to attention. Please step forward.
Hi. My name is Mikey Martin, and I submitted a street closure request, and I'm not listed on this list. I turned it in like 2.5, 3 weeks ago.
Who did you turn it into?
Maybe to me.
Linda.
I might have missed it. We got so many on there.
We've got a massive number of them this month, so.
So when it's
Yeah,
time-
you came through the drive-through and.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Each.
Okay, so
Do you have a copy of it?
I don't have a copy of that. I have a copy of my flyer.
Okay.
Well, why don't you go ahead and present it, and we'll make
We
it.
have
She
public
needs
hearings that we need to do, and they're publicly, they're listed at 7 o'clock.
But she needs hers out. She was supposed to be on here.
Right, but we'll do that after.
You want to do
Well,
like,
do
okay.
we need to change the agenda then, are you saying? 'Cause we
Yeah, I
got
have them after the street
she has-
request.
Oh, okay, as long as you have it after the street request,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, you can go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah.
Oh,
All right, my name is Mike E. Martin. I live out in the Whispering Winds portion of Woods Edge, and we are planning to have a block party on June 26th from 2 to 5 p.m., and I requested that we close Briarwood Court from number 42 to number 83, which is the horseshoe section of Briarwood Court. There's no through traffic on that portion of it. And I asked if we could close it from 1 to 6, because our event's from 2 to 5, and we'll have people walking around. We're going to have 2 bands come in and play. One of them is Danny Martin, my husband, and his band, and the other one is Larry Jones, who lives down at the other end of the street. That they're all going to be playing in our driveway, so there'll be people sitting in the street, there'll be activities for the children. We are not doing food and drinks or anything like that this year, since this is our first annual and because of COVID. But we are requesting that the street be closed.
I like to say I'm happy more of our communities are having block parties.
I'm sorry?
I think it's fantastic that our communities are starting to have block parties, and I would like to make a motion that we close the street on the 26th from 2 until 5, the horseshoe section of Briarwood Court. Your people are going to get hungry. I think that's a mistake.
Well, I've asked them to bring their own food and drinks.
Oh, good deal. Okay.
And chairs.
No alcohol in the street.
Okay, thank you. And we're also going to be providing trash cans for them, so.
And Mikey-
Not outhouses, but trash cans.
Did you say that you wanted that closed from 1 to 6?
I'd like to have it closed from 1 to 6.
Okay, I said 2 to 5. I amend
Okay.
1 to 6.
Second.
Yeah.
And I have enough flyers here for you all if you'd like to attend.
thank you for the invitation.
Would you like to take one and pass it
Lori,
out?
is there any paperwork you're going to need?
As long as they're not serving alcohol on our property, we don't normally.
Yeah, no alcohol.
We would ask that you do touch base with the police department and the fire department and make sure they're aware of
Okay,
what's going on, if they have any concerns.
Will
I'm
do.
not expecting any for something like this.
hopefully
but-
not, but thank you, I will.
And Mikey, I want to thank Danny for playing the first Friday last weekend.
Yes, he did.
If he happens to be available, I know that Parks Director Weinschenk is looking for performers for 4th of July. So if Danny's looking for a gig, please
is.
have him talk
Always.
to Rod.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to call the question.
Who was the second?
I did.
Adam Cohen.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you, appreciate
Okay.
it.
Mr. Harris, this is another street closure request. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Joseph Harris. I work over the Center for Diversity and Inclusion at DePaul. We are working with some community groups to have a Putnam Pride event. So we're asking for a street closure on June 26th on Indiana Street between 11 and 6:30 p.m. That will be right where Scoops is and Starbucks Scoops. That's that section of the street right there.
Have you talked to the businesses along there and everything?
I have not talked to the business.
You'll need to do that. Typically, in the commercial areas, we ask the petitioners talk to the businesses and also talk to the fire and police departments and things like that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve it pending the approval of all the businesses. I need to maybe correct, it's not from Starbucks, it's actually across the street, because we don't close
Indiana Street.
Indiana Street.
It's on the Scoop side of it.
Yeah,
On the
on the
south
scoop
side.
side, south, yeah.
The side of
Yep.
the west side.
Pending police fire approval, you're not serving alcohol?
No. We will have volunteers there for cleanup and that sort of thing as well.
That's fine. But you do need the businesses. If they don't sign off, then we can't do it.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I mean,
Second.
Second?
Veronica did.
Veronica. We have a motion and a second to approve the street closure request for, from the Center for Diversity and Inclusion at DePaul. Any further questions or
It's
discussion?
open to the public, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Joseph.
much.
Thank you. Thank you
Happy
very much.
Pride Month, Joseph.
Easy peasy.
Okay, any other public petitions or comments? This is not, you're on the agenda for street closure already. We're going to get to that next, so you're okay. These were a couple of last minute additions. So you're good. Okay, hearing no other public petitions or comments, we'll start in on special requests. The first one is a street closure request, WTHI, TV, Elevate Endurance, and the Putnam County CVB. So please step forward.
Thank you.
We can share.
Yeah, we can share too. Thanks.
Boy, this is way off.
I just put together some information. This first page is the sheet that has all the initial information about an event called Pedal Putnam. It's a cycling event that we're trying to bring to downtown Greencastle. This is in conjunction with WTHI TV, Putnam County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Elevate Endurance. We've got 3 different routes, a 12, 40, and 62-mile route. And I'm really here today just to talk to you about the street closures. So I have some information on the next page that has the 3 different map layouts you can take a look at, along with the cue sheets of exactly what roads that we would like to take. But the very last page is a snapshot of the streets downtown that we'd like to have road closures for. We were trying to pair it along with First Friday and piggyback that same road closure from Washington, Indiana to Walnut Street. So we would like to have that road closed for food vendors, entertainment, and then actually have the ride kick off on West Walnut. So where that green line is, that would be potentially where the start-finish line would be. Riders would go out West Walnut, turning onto South Jackson Street. And we were hoping to have West Walnut Street closed from South Jackson all the way to Vine for the duration of the event. I have talked to the chief of police initially just about traffic concerns going out South Jackson. Obviously that's a very busy intersection, and having some law enforcement that would help lead all 3 of the bike routes out that same path, so everybody would be going out the same way. Everyone would be staying together until we get across Bloomington Street, and then everybody would kind of be on their own in that regard.
Our fire station is just south of there on Walnut Street.
Yes.
Have you talked to Chief Burns?
I left him a message and I hadn't heard back. I wasn't sure, for me being out of town, if he came to these meetings. I thought maybe I would be able to grab him there, but I have not talked to him.
He had an issue to deal with tonight, so he wasn't
Okay.
able to attend this evening.
Yeah, and this event isn't until October, so I wanted to get in here early and make sure that if there were any issues, I was hoping just initially where the start-finish line would be, that would be okay, and then if there was any route changes that we needed to work around, especially having the fire department close by, that we could do that. The other thing that it would be an option too is after the ride kicks off, opening up the section of the street there, so where the green line is, we could potentially open back up Walnut Street to Vine, if that would help, just from a traffic flow perspective for the fire department. I don't know what their needs are.
Have you talked to Breadworks? I'm thinking Saturday morning is probably their busiest time of the
I
week.
have not, but I can certainly.
Because that would
reach out to
impact them, I would think, definitely.
Well, and it could be something, you know, the whole goal with us teaming up with the Convention and Visitors Bureau is to bring people downtown. So with all the downtown businesses, my plan is to, as the date gets closer, to approach them. You know, if there's an opportunity for coupons that can go in the swag bags, we want people to stick around after the ride is over and visit these businesses. So I think there's a lot of potential to keep people here and not make it a nuisance for that business, but to potentially draw people in as consumers.
How many people are you expecting?
Yeah, how big?
First year event, we don't know. Elevate Endurance is planning a gravel race that's it's in Eminence, Indiana, and it's a first year event, and he's got 400 riders. Hancock County does Hancock Flat 50, and it would be that gravel ride is a completely different type of cycling event. The Hancock Flat 50 is a road race, very similar to what we would putting on, and they've done that, if I had to guess, at least for the past 5 years, and they have upwards of 400 riders.
Where will these people park?
Eric is working with DePaul, and we're hoping to utilize a lot of their parking grounds. So we will certainly have, with the event being downtown, and most people that come to cycling events, it's not unusual to have to park your car and actually ride in to where the start-finish line is. But he is hoping to coordinate with them usage of their different lots. So communication would be key on our website. We're going to have some information about where those parking spots are going to be available. So hopefully steering them not necessarily to park right downtown, because obviously it's going to be busy, but some of those outer lying parking areas.
We'll still have the farmer's market, I think, going on October
Right.
2nd.
That
It might be the last day.
That might be the last Saturday,
Yeah.
depending on what's still available.
Right.
Adam, do you know what the Gold Weekend is?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that a Saturday that there's a football game?
Second.
Do we know?
I don't know that the schedule was completely out last time we looked. That was something that Eric was helping us to coordinate.
Okay.
But he acted like even if there was, parking still would not be an issue. Do you
Well, as
feel
long as it's not
otherwise?
old gold. Or old gold, or, well, it wouldn't be.
Okay.
I think if we have a home game,
You're in trouble.
I don't want to, it's not for me to say, but as a coach, I mean, those lots fill up.
There might be the possibility of working something out like at Greencastle High School, but, you know, depending on what events they had going on.
Okay.
Away from the start line, though.
Yeah.
It is.
But they're good shape athletes that can ride their bikes. They'll get from the high school. They'll get from high school downtown in 5 minutes.
When is the new president's inauguration?
That weekend.
Yeah.
Ooh,
What is it?
The new
No,
president's-
it's Old Gold that weekend.
it's old gold. Of course it is.
Is that
That's what new
is that a
president's
morning
inauguration.
event, or is that
Presidential
a
inauguration on that Friday,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
On Friday? Okay.
But Saturday will be packed, so they'll be home everything.
Especially after not having it last year.
It's not a great weekend.
not looking good?
I have two questions. Where does the money go that you raise with this?
A big chunk of it is going just to put on the event. It costs upwards of about $5,000, to be honest with you. And then we're also going to put money into People's Pathway.
And how big is this search team where I go 1/10 of a mile and then I take a right and I go a left and?
So I actually came down early today, and I apologize, I was walking in late, went to the wrong place. We actually did the 12-mile route today just to make sure there wasn't any safety concerns, because you're gonna have a lot of first-time riders on that 12-mile route. And if we have the police department help lead us out once we get kind of out of the city, it's just country roads, and then we're going to utilize volunteers and road signs to make sure that those directional pieces are set in place. the people that are doing the 40 and 62 mile routes are going to be people that are used to cycling and doing events like this, and they'll have Garmin GPS features on their apps on their bikes and watch and phones, and some of the major turn points will have directional signage, but for the most part they expect to be on their own when they're at an event like that.
Do we kill this if we table it tonight? Do you need a decision tonight?
I don't. I guess I would like to know if we need to look at different avenues, if you're thinking that.
I'm just
or
concerned.
Different weekends.
I'm just concerned.
Of the weekend.
And I don't want to put Tom on the spot right now either. We got a farmer's market, we're going to have Old Gold, president inauguration, and then 400 bikers. I just don't see how we...
What does the inauguration look like?
It's a festival. It's a new president. It's kind of, I don't know how we...
Trustees come back.
Trustees. They have usually have a big party.
But is it a daytime event or an evening?
Evening. But it'll spill into an Old Gold weekend.
It's Friday and
Just all the alumni.
So the hotel would be...
Yeah.
I mean, ours will be an early in and out event, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just terrified.
I think we're all going to be supportive of it, but
Sure.
maybe a different weekend.
Or at least coordinate.
A different place to park, like they said, the high school. Or
Yeah. It's not that we're not supportive. I
No,
think
I understand.
we need to give you some time to work with DePaul and the Visitors
Okay.
Bureau to work out some of the logistics things.
Okay.
Because I think what you're going to find is DePaul's not going to be able to support your parking needs that weekend.
Really?
I forget which of you folks over here said it, but I mean, I see that the route goes right by the high school, and if it was potentially reconfigured in such a way to begin and terminate there, then perhaps, with minimal modifications.
Or the park.
Doable.
Well, also don't know
or
what
Big
the-
Walnut Sports Park.
Yeah, Big Walnut too.
So we were,
Yeah.
normally when you have these events, you
Yeah.
have what's called a SAG stop, or just like if you do a 5K, they have stops where you can stop and replenish, get water. So we had 4 different locations we were looking at, and Big Walnut was one of those, and I had called and they said that also requires board approval
That would go to the park board.
for the park board. Okay.
Or Ivy Tech.
Yeah, I
And
guess.
they're supportive of these kind of things. It's just
Sure.
the park, that they're responsible for the park, so that's why I have to go there.
Sure.
I mean, it's not like we're not want this. It's
No,
just,
no, I completely understand.
I'm thinking too, Tom, I mean, do we even have enough, between Old Gold, this, and everything else, will we have enough policemen to escort them out of town?
Well, if it's Old Gold weekend, and I was not aware of that, probably several more officers will be working for all.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you my card,
Okay.
and then, why don't you, and we work with Eric, all the time on stuff.
Sure.
And then,
I would like to find, if there's a way that we could work around not changing the weekend and potentially changing, we obviously wanted to bring people downtown.
yeah,
There's too many people downtown.
I think there is, and Rod Wangshank, our Parks Director, is here, so we can set up a phone call or a Zoom
Okay.
meeting and try to figure out, okay, where can we park people that, because when it's Old Gold weekend, there's a lot of activity on.
But there might even be an opportunity, if you can work it with DePaul and you talk to them, where it could complement, because DePaul does have a lot of cycling enthusiasts in their alumni that come back for the spring races. You might be able, you're going to need to call the alumni office. If you reach out to me, I can get you in touch with somebody there.
Okay.
You might be able to even pick up people.
Yeah.
It won't help you with parking, but you might.
More participants.
I can see.
And is that your main
430.
concern then, is basically the parking situation?
Well, that's just a lot.
Should we have that many, and, I mean, I hope we have that many riders,
Well,
but,
so do we, yeah. I mean, so do we.
Safety.
Safety, whether our police staff can
Yeah.
handle, and just a huge log jam.
Yeah.
Log jam downtown.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time.
Okay, well, we'll
Table it.
keep you on the
Be in
roster
touch.
for future appearance.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, I think Eric's tied up this week, but maybe next week or the week after, we can set up and try to, do a little brainstorming and,
Okay.
help you out, and then that'll give some time to coordinate with DePaul, too.
You could probably
Why I came
get,
early.
But it sounds like a great
Exactly.
event, and we do appreciate you coming early. That's very helpful, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
probably get 30, 50 riders from DePaul.
And it would actually help the parking because they'd already be parked here anyway.
Yeah.
DePaul, just so you're aware, DePaul has like a little 5 bike race annually and stuff like that, so there are a lot of riders associated with the university. Okay, well, thank you. And next is Julie Carr for Kinetic Change.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve all of the street requests right now, unless Julie has some changes to what's happened in the past. I've already talked with Nancy Michael, Jay Smith, and I have a question on the Dickerson block party, but otherwise I'd like to make a motion to approve all the other street requests without further discussion, if everyone's comfortable with that. They've been done before, they know how to do them again, it's going to be the same as 2000.
It's up to council. If there's a second, it'll move forward.
I'll second.
Is it legal?
What?
Yeah, it's legal.
Do it all?
Unless they want to say, put in a plug for your event.
Go ahead.
Wait.
August 21st, please come join us at our street party after you do the golf scramble. Join us for that, and then come join us downtown. And we're asking to close that section of the street and a noise waiver. I don't know if that changes anything.
Only
We've
if
done
there-
it before.
Only if there's a complaint, you have to shut the music down.
Okay.
Does anybody else need to plug their event?
Okay, hang on just a second. Nancy, do you have any changes for the Fair Parade? It's the usual
Same
setup?
as, same as
Okay.
usual. Yep.
Gail hiding
Are
back
we
there
throwing
somewhere?
candy?
There she is.
Gail, anything different about your event that you need to explain to council?
Still 2 nights?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Okay.
Police and the fire chief, so we're all good.
And then Mr. Dickerson, sorry I skipped over you, I apologize. Do you have any changes from your event last year? Is there a question for Mr. Dickerson?
There is a question.
Okay.
But I'd like to approve the others if we can, and then we'll briefly
Okay.
take care of Mr. Dickerson's request.
But Nancy's is changing days, right? Isn't that a big change for the parade?
Are you changing days of the parade?
It's going to be July the 18th on Sunday at 2.
Yeah, Sunday.
It was Sunday 2 years ago?
Yeah, that's what we had.
Yeah.
It was always Sunday.
Yeah, it was all Sunday, and then we had Fridays for a few days.
Fridays.
It was Friday for a few years, and it was back to Sunday. Back to Sunday, and moved it a week earlier. Yeah,
But otherwise, no change from your application? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the car event, the Fair Parade, and Greencastle Music Fest, correct?
Street and noise.
Street and noise.
Yeah.
B, C, D, F, and G on our agenda, I believe.
And you already have a
Do we
second?
have any further questions or discussion?
Yeah.
Jake.
Okay.
Here- Jake was the second?
Yeah.
Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then, thank you very much. That's probably as quick as we could do that.
Yes, and I'll plug this Saturday, in less than 48 hours, you could all come join us for our 5K. Come dress in any fun costume or just come walk for the evening. 6 o'clock this Saturday, starts at Deer Meadow, ends at Deer Meadow.
Okay.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you.
Julie.
Okay, Mr. Dickerson, please step forward, if you would, please.
We're losing our public.
First, a compliment. I heard you were very much in control of the situation last year, first time event.
We had fun.
But you didn't have too much fun, even though some others did, apparently. But my question is, this says all day, it doesn't have a start time.
Oh, we did that last year, I think, too. We had,
An ending time, and I need one of each of those.
yeah.
Do what now?
I need a start time. I don't want it to be 7 a.m. in the morning while people are trying to sleep.
Everyone they put the barrel, they can get the things up for the street.
What time are you going to kick it off? And
I don't know what she put on the paper.
Well,
All
that's the
day.
question. She didn't put anything. She just, if you want to take a look at it, she
Just put all day.
she just put all day
And I
on.
think we had that same issue last year.
Yeah, so if you
We
could-
don't want it midnight to midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you just tell us when you went to barricade. You just need to,
Last time.
yes. Yeah, we was all done, cleaned up, and everything put away, and
They were the only ones in the neighborhood.
What time do you, what time would it start?
I'll say about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the
morning?
day.
Okay.
And then go through till 10 o'clock, like we did
let's go
last
10
year.
to 10, Mark.
10 to 10 or 10 to 11, give you time to clean up?
Yeah, go 10 to 11.
10 a.m. to 11 p.m.?
Yes.
I move we approve the request with those hours in play.
I will second.
That it?
Yep.
Well, as soon as we vote.
Well, there's time for discussion if we choose to have it.
That's true.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll get some paperwork back to you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have 3 public hearings. The first is for Phoenix closures. So ask Kristen to come forward and present for Phoenix, answer any questions. Material was sent out ahead of time to council.
So much for the public.
I am here for the public hearing. I don't see anybody else present for that. We went over this last month. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I did send you all a packet, so you should have looked that all over. I don't know if I'm going to go into detail now or if I should go into detail when the resolution's actually passed, because that's later in the meeting. But I'll leave it up to your discretion.
Because it is a public hearing, maybe just give a cursory overview now, and then we won't have to worry about it with the resolution.
Absolutely. So, sure, I walked up without my folder that's back there, but as we know...
Just do it once.
Just wait.
As we know, Phoenix Closures came before us last month, and they're doing some expansion. $6.8 million is what they're going to be putting into 2 new lines out at their facility. Their plant manager, Bill, offered it up to anybody who wanted to go out there and tour. Jake did actually go out there and tour and took some time. Dave indicated that he might be interested as well. I will tell you it's very difficult to nail them down right now because they are splitting time between here and Bloomington, but they still want to show off their operations. They are up to 130 employees, so for the SB1 they were at 119, so they've already increased. So they are going gangbusters. They're doing a great job. And so what you'll see in your paperwork is exactly what they're looking at doing. Some of that $6.8 million is tooling, and tooling is not abatable per state code because it's 30% the first year and 3% thereafter, so it's almost abated anyway. So a little bit of that will be tooling, so when they file their personal property tax return, we will take that out. We do that very typically, but it is still going to be a $6.8 million capital investment with all of their investment in that. And so, again, they want to start this month. In fact, they've already started engineering conception and have started the purchase. They just haven't put anything in service yet. So that's what our rules are, that we don't abate until they put in service. And one of the sheets in here, so we've got the SB1, and they say they're going to employ 8 additional people at $370,000. And then the next sheet there is if they were going to pay total taxes over 10 years without being abated at $795,000. With abatement, they're going to pay $319,000, so it's $475,000 savings. So it's very important for our industries to get this abatement. But what we miss in the property taxes that we're abating, we make up for with those income taxes oftentimes, and we keep the employer in our community. So that's very important. And then the next sheet, you can see that already they paid $1.635 million to date in property taxes. So they're a very good employer with us, and so I would just ask that you consider approving the resolution to approve the 10-year abatement.
Well, right now, we're just doing a public hearing.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so if there's any member of the public that would like to step forward and either ask a question or make a comment, you're welcome to do so at this time.
Yes.
Please.
They're the only company that's not even laying somebody off or bankrupt. So I think it's wonderful.
They're good. They're a good company.
They are a good company. We've got plenty of companies that aren't laying people off. They just can't find the people to employ. They're not being laid off. We're lacking workers.
I am getting regular phone calls from many of our companies that are looking for good people to hire. So if you know of anybody that needs a job, there are plenty of opportunities, not just here in Greencastle, but throughout West Central Indiana right now.
No, only in Greencastle, no other place.
But still,
Well, the
Any
other thing
questions
is,
from the council?
the other thing is the $475,000 that we're abating, we're getting at $475,000 we wouldn't be getting if they didn't put the equipment in.
That's correct.
So.
And it's never been assessed, so it's not like we're missing out on anything. It's just, it's going to be new, and then at the end of 10 years, we're going to get 100% of it anyway. So, and they continue to be very innovative. You know, it's not traditional manufacturing. A lot of our plants aren't anymore, but this is all very food grade processing, so they're not even touching product. They're just working behind screens, and they're very high tech. So.
I'd
great
make a
employee.
motion. I'd make a motion to approve the Phoenix
I
closures.
have one other thing to say. IAB laid off 80% of their employees, so there are layoffs.
yeah, no question there. Yeah, they haven't laid off everybody yet, but we've been working with them, and our Work One office has been working very closely with them.
Motion to close the public.
We have to do a motion
Okay.
to
Well,
close the
I'll
public
motion to
hearing.
close the public hearing on the Phoenix closure tax abatement request.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll see you later in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next public hearing is on the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. We have a city investment plan. This was an in-house project. And I will be the first to say that likely during the tenure of this plan, we have to spend the money by December 31st, 2024. I expect fully that we will be amending it at some point in time.
More than once.
Or multiple times. We are also working our way through some of the rules and regulations and things like that and what we can use the money for. Currently, the plan has 4 parts, and the proposal at this stage is to reserve over the course of the 4 years $200,000 for response to public health emergency, an additional $100,000 for vaccine outreach, and that was from the council's wish. I did find out that there is money flowing to the health department and to the hospital for similar types of activities, so we may or may not have to spend that. Potential assistance through the Indiana Small Business Development Corporation, $120,000. Potential assistance to impacted not-for-profit businesses of $200,000. We will have to come up with at least some sort of cursory application and review process for that. Potential revenue loss replacement in 2021 of $150,000. An estimate of potential revenue loss replacement in 2022 of $350,000. And Linda, I think, will be the first to say we haven't received any information yet on 2022 or 2023. An additional $100,000 for revenue loss in 2023. And then we've set aside the balance for infrastructure investment, potentially looking at providing sanitary sewer service to the Toddson Jamar Drive area. Since our council workshop, we have learned that the Indiana Finance Authority has released information on their $100 million that they will make available across the state for similar infrastructure projects. They have also indicated that this fund can be used to match that fund, so we may see if we can make an application and stretch our dollars a little further. So Lori Young is here this evening for the next public hearing, and we have a meeting set up in a week or so to discuss those opportunities. So that's kind of the cursory overview. The plan does include some additional background information of other not-for-profit support and things like that, so I will open the floor for questions on this. Any questions from the public? Any questions from council?
So our non-for-profit folks, we're going to put it out there that if you need funds and have some kind of short application or something and have a committee that
I would
decides.
probably ask maybe 2 or 3 members of council will set up a little program. I would hope you would be one of them.
But yeah,
Okay.
good.
And
That way anybody can apply from a non-for-profit that is interested in securing some of the money. Be fair.
I have asked the county if they'd be interested in doing something similar, because a lot of our not-for-profits serve constituents both in the city and outside the city, across the county, and so they're still working on their plan. I haven't received any kind of determination back at what direction they're going to go, but...
Can I make a comment about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing, we will probably be getting guidelines on that from the State Board of Accounts, because they will not be able to spend money on certain things that we can't spend money. So it probably
Makes
can't
sense.
be used for salaries or pensions.
But
or-
it could be used for lost revenue due to COVID. I mean, that's kind of what I'm
could be
thinking.
possibly used for lost
Or lost opportunities for fundraisers and things like that.
Right. So, but
That's what we're hoping for.
we're hoping, but I'm sure we're going to get some guidelines, because some training that I had were very specific that if we're giving it out to other people, they still have to use it for like kind of things, so.
You know, there's other resources that are coming, like United Way announced the other day that they have another $110,000 to support not-for-profit activities. So there may be, you know, depending on what the need is, that, you know, some of these not-for-profits may have to kind of work with other supporting agencies to kind of help fill the gaps. So.
But we can move money around within this, like you said.
Yeah, we would have to amend the plan, but we can move money around.
We amend
So
plans.
the ordinance that you'll see later does two things. It creates the fund that Linda needs to account for the money coming in, and it adopts this version of the plan. But I think, as we've discussed pretty consistently, we're probably going to have to amend the plan at some point as rules come forward or things change or other opportunities present themselves. So last call for any members of the public, and otherwise there's no other members.
You got a hand up.
Please step forward and introduce yourself.
It's hard to see out there.
Hi, I'm Diane Hubbard, and I'm the community liaison for Congressman Jim Baird. And we've been working with counties and towns and cities with the American Recovery Plan. And as I'm sure that your staff has learned, it changes constantly, and the Department of Treasury gives out new things. So I think you're very right to say that you will probably alter things along the way. But I just wanted to say that our office is here to help. If you do have problems, really, I know like on the county level that Okra tends to get the information before our office does, but we still are an avenue for you if you have any questions or concerns along the way, or if there's anything that that you think we can specifically try to address for you, or either to support for you, just to let us know, and we'd be happy to help. So thank you.
Great. All right, thank you very much.
I'll move to close the public hearing unless somebody else's hand goes up.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, our third public hearing of the evening is on our Community Development Block Grant, our water system grant. And so Christy Jarrell, our grant administrator, is here, and Lori Young, our project engineer, is here to answer any questions. And I can tell everybody that staff has been feverishly working on things to submit to Christy and gather in information.
This could be a record for a public hearing.
So,
everybody.
Good evening.
What are we doing?
I have 743.
My name is Christy Jarrell. I'm the grant writer for the water project for the city. And we also have Lori Young here. She's the project engineer and also owner of Curry and Associates. So she'll be speaking here in a moment about the project details. So this is our second public hearing, our final public hearing for the water improvements construction project. We are going into the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. And this is federal grant dollars that come from Housing and Urban Development at the federal level. They trickle down to the Lieutenant Governor's office, and she manages and disperses those funds. There's 2 rounds a year. We're going in round 1. We actually submitted your proposal on April 29th. And then shortly after, we had a public hearing before then. Shortly after that, we had a site visit with the community liaison with Okra, the state agency. And we have found out there are 30 projects. They're probably only going to fund 10 to 12. So this is going to be a very, very, very highly competitive. So I want to be realistic. I don't want to get hopes up and thinking this is a done deal. It is very highly competitive. We do have some obstacles to overcome in the application, which we're still working on, and we'll diligently work on those up until the application date of June 25th. So that's when we plan on submitting your final application. And then hopefully we see the City of Greencastle's name on the grant on the Okra website on August the 12th. If we do not get funded, because I'm hoping they throw more money in, they never tell us about how much money they have, kind of have a guess, so we're kind of guessing they're going to fund 10 to 12. They've had some extra COVID dollars left over. I don't know if they have to give those back or if those are going to be pushed into this round. There's some money from last year left over. I don't know what they're going to do with that. They don't tell us anything. We kind of have to guess. So we are guessing about 10 to 12 will be funded. So tonight is our final public hearing. I will take the minutes and get those to you, Linda. And our total project cost is $1,902,187. I have provided a budget in your packets, Council, so if you'd like to look that over. Total grant request we're going after for grant funds is $700,000, and that's the maximum we can go for. This is an all-or-nothing grant, so that we either get funded or we don't. In our local match, we are required to put at least 20% up. We are putting way more than that. We're putting in $1,210,687, and $5,000 of that is previously paid environmental review, which we had to clear through all federal and state agencies, the project environmentally, which we have. And then out of the City 603 Water Improvements Fund, we're using $1,205,687 for local match. Okay, and later on in your nightly agenda, you will be presented with a resolution that is authorizing submission of the grant application and also commitment of the local match that is required to go into our grant application for us to apply. So if you turn on page 2, I'll go over the scoring criteria. So there's 700 points available, and we have to at least score a 450 to be eligible for award. National objective, you can either meet two ways: by census data, which we did not. You have to be at least 51% higher, low to moderate income or higher. And we were not, so we had to actually complete income survey on your water service area, which we did, and we came out with 51.8% LMI. So we get 51.8 out of 100 there. Community distress factors, those are already set by the IU School of Business, other entities such as medium household income, unemployment rates, and so it's kind of a score out of your control. We're getting 74.83 out of 175 there. Local match, as I said before, we are only required to put up at least a 20% match, but because this project is so big, we are putting up 64% in local match. So you're getting 64 points out of 75. We'll skip down to number 5, project sustainability. This is a total of 50 points. It's made up of 2 items. Financial gap, it's a gap calculation that the state sets where we would put in the amount of grant you're going after, which is $700,000, and then it bases on how many water customers you have. So because you guys do have, you are a city, you have a lot of customers on your system, we're only going to get 1.56 points out of 25. And that calculation, I feel it's unfair. It should be the total project cost that goes in there. We fought with them forever on this, but they don't get it. So this is saying the city, in order to do this project, would only have to raise water rates $1.56 to do this project, which is insane. So that's the state. Project sustainability, down here, this is based on your utility rates. You do have a water rate of 32.40, so that is higher than 25, so you get the full 25 points there. So you're going to be getting a 26.56 points out of 50 on that. Your bonus points, I submitted those the day the round opened on March 29th, and we were granted those 25 extra bonus points on April the 1st. So go back up to number 4, the project design factors. That is where I'm working on the narratives. Project description, we're just going to explain in layman terms, very simple terms for them to understand what the project is, the outcomes of the project, the scope of work, how we got here, what the planning process was. Project need, we explain why this project is needed. For instance, one of the elements of the project is an at-risk water main on Alvin Pond Road, and so we're going to be talking a lot about that. We're going to be talking about fire protection because we're going to be adding hydrants, isolation valves so we can isolate the system during repairs and leaks. And then financial impact, we explain why the city can't do this almost $2 million project on your own. So that's what Linda and I and the mayor are working on now, trying to explain some fund balances, and we're working on that. So we must score at least a 207.81 out of 300 on the narratives to make minimum score. Last round, last round and the round before, I've been scoring anywhere from a 272 out of 300 to a 292. I do not estimate that we will not make that score. We're going to be high. The problem, the thing that scares me is we've got a lot of other communities that maybe have arsenic in their water, or you're competing against not only water projects but wastewater projects. So you might have, communities having overflows going into the creek, or sewage coming up through the ground and just sitting there in someone's yard, or so we'll have to see how many have actually come in. We know 30 proposals went in. We'll see how many applied, and we'll have to go from there. If we do not get funded for some reason, the city can always choose to go right back in for round 2, which the application will be all ready to go. We can make the tweaks after the site visit and improve the application and put some more documentation in, and that'll be due in November. So at this time, I will turn it over to Lori, and she'll explain in detail the project elements.
And one question before you do. Number 3, if we could match more, could we get more points? Or getting 64 out of 75 is great?
That's good.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough then. All right.
Really good. Because all the project elements with the itemized cost estimate, that's how it came out. Normally people are putting anywhere from an exact 20% up to like a 42%. Last round was average. So we're well over that average. Yep.
That's the only one we really score high on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of the maximum points available.
I've been doing this for 14 years, and I can kind of gauge. So this project, although I think it is a very good project, you're doing about 5,500 lineal feet of water main that is having major issues. You've had, I think, 18 leaks since 2001. I mean, we're going to really talk it and give it our all. This really needs to be fixed. Plus, more fire protection with hydrants along that line, and also in town. And also your generator, I'm talking about everything Lori's going to talk about. The generator at the water treatment plant, we know it's a 400 kilowatt. We're going up to 600 kilowatt because we don't want you to be without, water, with power outages and things like that. We think it's a really great project. Not sure Okra, I don't know, we'll have to see. They've changed their thought process the last couple of years, so we'll have to see. So, do you guys have any other questions about the process or the grant submittal? Okay, I'll turn it over to Lori and she can explain the details.
So as Tracy said, Alvin Pond Road water main replacement has been a priority for the city for several years. It's the area that you have most frequent water main leaks, and so as you look at asset management planning for the city, it's definitely number 1 on the list for replacement. So that project is high priority, and adding some hydrants in the distribution system to improve fire protection and system maintenance, flushing, certainly another good project. And then the generator at the water treatment plant. So when the city had to do some upgrades of the water treatment plant, I think about 6 years ago when we were groundwater under the influence, that was the last big project at the treatment plant. We were able to continue using the old generator, but that generator was old then and has continued to get older. And the city over this time has looked at alternatives for, I think, a lease program that initially they were promising would maybe be very cost effective and ended up being very, very expensive. And so while the generator currently will run a portion of the plant, it doesn't run everything, so you don't have the maximum capacity available, and it's also just time to replace this generator due to age. So it's an age and a capacity improvement need. So those are the drinking water projects. Anybody have any questions? All right.
Just a side comment. Even if we would not be funded by Okra, this homework is not for naught, because we may be able to go into some of these other programs that Indiana Finance Authority has available. And not yet announced is the legislature put $60 million in the state budget for water projects. So that could be another source. They haven't announced all the details of that particular program. It's brand new. So yes, this has been a lot of homework, but if we are not funded in this round, it's homework that we could apply to some other sources as well. So we may be able, to work things out, as well as come in for a second round of Okra too. So
What is, how much more life expectancy can we expect in our current generator? Do you know? Or are we already past it?
Yeah, is the warranty over?
The warranty's over, for sure. And you are getting to the point where it's hard to find parts, to repair. So it's there. It's time. They've been able to. I mean, the city's done good maintenance on it and everything they can to keep it running, and it has.
It's kind of like our fire truck. It's time.
it actually ran the plant for several days when we had a power outage out there. So the issue is we have to manually turn pumps on and off, which is kind of a pain. And but we have worked with Duke Energy to improve the quality of service on the line. One of the issues we were having is the line goes beyond our water plant, and when a branch would fall on the line, it would take the whole line out. So Duke came in and put a fuse bank in at our water plant. So if the line drops out beyond our water plant, it doesn't take out the water plant. And that has helped some in reliability.
You probably said this. What is it going to cost us to replace this generator if we had to do it?
So the generator is about $415,000 of the budget.
That's nothing. We just did $1 million fire truck.
And that does include an automatic transfer switch as well as some electrical upgrades. And then it's also demolishing the existing line in the past.
No, that's fine.
So it's about 20% of the total.
I was just curious if we have to go to loan, what we're going to do.
What you said, that if we're willing to put up a 64% match, it almost looks like we really don't need the money as badly as some other places do.
Well, I think what concerns me the most and what we're trying to work on now is that you guys have large fund balances in your water improvements fund, but we are using 1.2 million of that out of there. And then the mayor has actually come up with kind of
We have a capital improvements plan for our utilities. So
yeah.
Like for example, we thought we were going to need to paint the standpipe last year. We did the study. It turns out we could delay that for 2 or 3 years, but we need to have the money in the bank to do that because that's a $500,000 project. So that will be a drawdown on that fund balance, and so we have to just document that.
And so the mayor and Linda were actually meeting today, and so they are actually going to put their brains together because we have about $3.6 million in discretionary funds, Riverboat, Rainy Day, and Okra, because, Linda and I talking today, is it your rainy day is strictly for emergencies or is the Riverboat? Okay. Okra doesn't see it that way. They see, oh, you've got cash on hand, you can spend that. So we have to be delicate and find ways that we're going to think about spending these dollars. Not necessarily we're going to go out tomorrow and do all this stuff, but we have to say, we're thinking about purchasing, new dump truck or 2 new pickup trucks for the water utility, and it's going to cost this much. So we kind of got to explain those balances away. I think that's one of our biggest hurdles on the project.
So it's kind of like having the plan for the water improvement fund, for those funds as well.
And this is something going in the application we don't have to have approved by council or anything, because this is kind of like a wish list of what we want to do. And
it's moving target.
We're going to do this, and yeah, so that's what we're going to work on right now.
But Linda, so I can sleep tonight, if the generator goes boom, we would have money somewhere to...
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would have to manually.
Yeah.
I mean, if it went boom tonight, we'd go lease one and put it to work.
That's really all I care about right now.
So any other questions or comments from the public? Any other questions or comments from council? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay.
I will second.
Who's the second?
Who gets these?
Yeah, who gets these?
Lori, who gets these?
Here, just pass them down.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. That closes our 3 public hearings.
That's a record.
We will now move on to department head reports.
3 in 1 year.
And those were included in your packet. I would like to ask Jason to step forward. This is Jason's first city council meeting. He is now our new Forest Hill Cemetery superintendent. Ernie has officially retired after, almost 30 or over 30 years of service in one capacity or another to the city.
That's not step forward. Step forward is up there.
Jason's
You're still lingering in the shadows back there.
So
we'll forget one here.
So Jason will be taking over, has taken over, and
well, congratulations.
is part of our new management team. So.
And the cemetery looked, as always, amazing. on
Memorial Day.
It was beautiful.
It's great.
I was out there with one of my employees, and he had not been out there, and he was just stunned at how it looked, and we ended up taking a walk and a drive through it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So Jason, thanks for coming up.
This is your passion. You should talk about
I am...
Briefly.
I am not new to Greencastle or whatsoever. I grew up here, went to school at Greencastle High School and graduated. Actually, with Mark's kids were fairly close to mine, my age.
Worked at Bright Futures with them.
Yeah, and worked with, first job was right up here on the square in Greencastle. I am not new to this business. My grandparents, after my grandfather retired from Allison's, got bored and decided he was going to start his own cemetery business, digging graves in rural Putnam County and Park County, and dragged me from the time I was old enough to go with him to the cemeteries. So I spent much of my childhood growing up in the cemetery, helping them filling graves and big graves, and all kinds of cemetery work. I have a huge interest in genealogy and historical backgrounds. The cemetery that we have is unique because we maintain a historical record. We have our own little private museum park out here. We have members of the Lilly family from Eli Lilly. We have one of Abraham Lincoln's biographers buried out here in our cemetery. John Ridpath is buried here, which is, he was transcendentalist, and also the schools are named after him. Many of the DePaul founding members are buried there. And if you look at the history of Greencastle, and even some of the city councilors that founded Greencastle and the first bankers, they're all buried out here at our cemetery. So the historical record is there. We just need to work to always bring that to people's attention. And on a daily basis, we get calls from people looking for information on these people. And it's always been my goal to help them where we can, between the mowing and trying to, balance the funerals, the mowing, and everything, but also, maintain that record of history and share it with the world.
So you sound like you're as good as everybody says?
I will not say that I am, but I can.
He is.
We'll look forward to hearing your ideas.
Okay.
Congratulations.
I don't want to come in and do the radical one, but we're hoping to make a few changes. Just
don't hesitate to tell us about it.
Just to appease and to save money across the
There you go.
city.
All right.
All right,
Thank you,
all.
Jason.
Congratulations.
I will have to say our cemetery team is doing battle with the cicadas out there. Literally, they get covered in them. So.
Well, they did at least aerate the yard out there.
Okay, Rod, brief.
I'll make it quick, okay?
Yeah.
I do want to let the audience behind the camera know that we do have, with the changes we did at the Aquatic Center, we've also had a change to our phone number. So I would like to share that with everybody, okay? It is 765-301-9110. Again, that's 301-9110. You can get the Aquatic Center and any information that you have in regards to season passes, when we open, and entry fees. But with the changes, I do want to start off, and I'll keep it, like I said, I'll keep it brief, but I want to thank everybody, from Mayor Bill Dorey, City Clerk Treasurer Linda Dunbar, the City Council and Board of Park Commissioners, and the citizens of Greencastle for allowing us to take out a park bond to finance the improvements of the Greencastle Aquatic Center. We've received nothing but compliments in regards to the changes, and in your packet, I'll share, I listed some of these, I'll just name the last two. The comments that I thought were the greatest were, this isn't a city pool, this is a pool you see at a resort. was a comment that somebody made. And then my favorite, when I first walked in, it was like walking into Disney World. So I thought that, what bigger compliment can we get? Okay.
No kidding.
And then, of course, I give you some sales reports. I've given you some photos, pictures of things that are happening right now. I do want to remind everybody that on Saturday, July 3rd, we will be running our Michael Kiki Memorial Road Run, the 29th annual 5K run and walk. I do not want to compete with activities held on Sunday mornings at church. So we're running ours at 8 o'clock Saturday morning. We just met with the 4th of July committee. Most of the activities for the 4th of July will start around 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go into dusk with the fireworks. But that's it. If anybody has any questions, let me invite y'all to stop into the Greencastle Aquatic Center.
Please, if you haven't been down there, stop in, especially on a sunny day. Unfortunately, this first week hasn't been spectacular, but last weekend was
The water's
wonderful.
warming up.
It was crowded.
The water's pushing high 70s, close to 80.
Oh, well,
But,
that's good.
with the weather we've had, it was kind of a slow start, so everybody's getting their feet wet, pun intended. But I think this weekend, with it pushing 90 degrees, that it'll be really busy.
New slides are popular.
Oh, new slides are popular, all three of them. And like I said, I've shared photos with you of people going down them, and some of the other activities. Kona Ice is now is a permanent presence this summer at the Aquatic Center, and those are always fun to partake in. So.
And I'll put a plug in for the 4th. If any council members, Rod always needs help. Selling glow necklaces is my specialty, but I will hand it happily over to someone else.
Adam, now that you mention it, Servicio will be in town this year, but they will not be here over July 4th. They're starting 1 week later. So I will need help selling glow necklaces and doing a blanket collection. I have not heard from the volunteers I've asked for. So if you're free that day, please consider.
Give me a call. I might have an idea for you.
That sounds great.
If you haven't been out there, it's like day and night. It's an incredible transformation. Kudos.
And we did file a grant request for land and water conservation funds for improvements to Roban Park. Remember, we took a park bond out prior to COVID. We have about $500,000 left in that. And we will be matching that with land and water conservation funds for further improvements to Roban Park in preparation for our centennial set for 2028. Okay? All right.
Awesome.
You have any questions?
Reach out to me on the volunteers. I might know another source.
Any other questions? You all have a good evening.
Okay, thanks, Rod.
Thanks.
Anybody have any other questions? Anything like that? Okay. Our department heads can enjoy the rest of the evening with their family. Scott's got to stick around because he's later on the agenda. I'm just going to keep my report brief. It was noted in the paper about the Okra COVID grants. We're waiting on signatures on our particular grant agreement. We have signed, we're waiting for Okra to sign, and then we're waiting on release of funds. We're working on all our paperwork, so as soon as the grant is signed, we can move forward. But basically, we're just waiting on paperwork right now before those funds are released to our companies here locally in town. Community crossings, they've gotten sort of a bit of a start on it, but that'll be moving forward shortly. And other than that, we've just been, as you can tell from the agenda, we've been really busy the last couple of weeks, so I'll leave it at that. So, Linda?
It's getting to be budget time, so I do have the results back from a quick little salary survey that our consultant did. So whoever's on the budget committee or whoever, if we want to start going through some of that stuff, we can get that going. The mayor's going to start meeting with department heads soon, but salaries is usually the biggest deal, so I can send out email with some times and dates and we can start that process, okay?
But nothing earth-shattering this time.
No, it will not be nothing like we've done before, so.
Nothing like last year.
Nothing like last year, so but still, we could get started and get through this process quickly. And then I just want you guys to put down July 10th to save a date. We are having an all-employee party at the park pool, so it's just Greencastle employees and their families. The mayor and I will be cooking, and we might need some help cooking. So if council, we're going to get the grill and get burgers and brats and things like that there for our employees to eat and their families to eat and all that, so we might need some assistance. So watch for our email, and if you can help us out, send me an email and say, hey, we're going to be there. It's going to start at 6 o'clock and go to 9-ish on that night. So we are excited about the pool, and we decided to have an employee outing at the pool.
Kids and grandkids are welcome.
Kids, grandkids, spouses.
That's a Saturday.
Yeah, and it starts at 6 o'clock in the evening, and so it's a private party for the city employees, so.
Awesome.
But I would hope that you guys can maybe come and help with that event. That's all I have.
Nothing?
I'll make this really brief. First off, we had so many academic awards, and that was a great thing you sent out to us. We need to find some way to honor at a council meeting in the future some of the academic highlights from our high school, because they are really cool. I think at some point, council, probably sooner, not later, we need to address the new state legislation on Zoom, and how we want to handle that with our meetings, and are we going to allow counselors to Zoom in or not. Tied into that, I thought the management fellows, even though I was skeptical, actually gave a really good report, and some of those are really easy fixes. They are right, and I'm happy to take the lead on it, but I want to encourage the mayor. I mean, we need to come up with a plan so people know how to find our council meetings online and how they can watch in, and not by going to some obscure YouTube channel that I still can't find. All we have to do is change the name. So I just think those are two things that are coming up, and they kind of tie together in terms of what our Zoom policy is going to be for us, ties into how we're going to use Zoom to reach the community if they want to come in. So
we're going to have to do a policy if we're going to do that, if we're going to allow it. Yeah.
And I got some email from one of those 100 organizations that flood me that had templates and stuff like that.
Okay.
They seem to have figured it all out. I don't know why I get all those emails. I think somehow Mark should get them.
11 years of being council president, maybe.
I don't know how to not subscribe very well. But yes, we need to address it, and we probably need to do it sooner, not later, so we're not caught on an important vote and being like, well, what's the state law say? What does our rules say?
I think everybody's just excited to be in the same room together.
I think this is our
It's gonna be
first.
the norm for here on out, but I agree. I'd like to get together with you on that. I think I'd like to keep it as expansive as possible and keep it as flexible, so that if somebody is out of town, they can still Zoom in.
I have no real position. I just don't want us caught. But I also wanted to tie into the number one thing I hear in town is our meetings are not accessible. Well, they actually are. We're on YouTube, we're on Zoom. We just have to do a better job of helping people find their way to who we are, consistently to where we are. And I'd be happy, to work with you. I don't want to throw Veronica totally under the bus, but I know she has some expertise.
Be happy to help.
I would love to have the 2 or 3 of you come back with something for us to consider.
Okay. That's all I got.
I have a brief, exciting announcement. The former Charlie's Restaurant has been sold as of June 1st. It's been in the works for a couple months. I talked to the owner this week. He said, please make it public. Domino's Pizza is coming to Greencastle. So we're not sure when they're going to open, but how great that building is no longer vacant, and we've got a food restaurant coming in, so it's good stuff.
That's a much bigger one than they had before.
And now we will not be the only college in the country
It doesn't have a Domino's. I know. Yes. I do not know their timeline, but they took possession June 1st, so hopefully, I would think by the time the school year starts, but again, I don't know exactly.
Great to know it's not empty.
Yep. That's it.
I'd like to remind those in our community, if you have not yet had the opportunity to get vaccinated, it seems the vaccine is now flowing through the gutters down the streets. It's so readily available. Please stop by Kroger, stop by Walmart, stop by anywhere, and please get your jab so we can all declare our independence by July 4th.
Well said.
And happy Pride Month.
Also well
Turn it
said.
over to you.
Happy Pride Month. I will say I just relayed the news that we're getting Domino's in at Charlie's, and it's got positive feedback. So
All right. It's on the cutting edge.
It's trending.
I'll keep it short. Nothing else to report.
Is it on Zoom yet?
It is now.
I have nothing further.
Yeah, I really have nothing to report. I guess it's mainly a question just on the street closures and stuff. I know we got a lot of last-minute stuff. Is there an internal policy that we have in terms of a time limit in terms of when folks can get those street closures in? Because I understand we're here to serve the public, but at the same time, I also understand our we have an agenda that we put together and various things that we need to follow through with in terms of open door stuff, 48-hour policies. I don't know if we're meeting that with street closures. I'm just kind of curious if we've thought through maybe creating some sort of an internal policy with that, or how we want to address that moving forward.
Actually, we have just the opposite internal policy where we gave the mayor permission to do an email survey if something came in
No.
exceptionally, or did we do that?
No.
I
It's
thought we did.
printed.
You can't do
Jake,
that. No, you can't do that.
I'm right there with you, Jake, but on our street closure request form, it says, return the completed form no later than the Thursday prior to the common council meeting. So technically...
A week before or the same day?
The Thursday prior to common council meeting.
So that's probably when it was on a Tuesday.
So
Yeah.
we have violated that rule.
So and that's really, the question is, I mean, like I said, I understand, I think we're all on the same page. We want to serve our community and make these things happen, but if we have a policy, I think we need to
do a
stand
public petition
by
then?
it. Right.
If they missed that deadline, could they not come and do what the first person did?
Yeah, I don't think it's in our ordinance as far as you must or shall. But it is extremely inconvenient for the staff here, and especially Linda. In the past, we've had clerk treasurers who absolutely said absolutely not, and Linda bends over backwards to try to accommodate folks. We are not in violation of open records or open door law, because we do have the agendas posted, and it has to be, you have to notify the paper within 40 hours if you're having a meeting, but the agendas can change. You're not even required to have an agenda by the statute. But anyway, we
would definitely appreciate them coming in much
it is
sooner.
extremely frustrating for everyone involved, and yeah.
And they really need to be proactive and come in a month, 2 months, 3 months.
We had the best of the best here tonight.
Right.
The young lady who came in for an October event.
That we tabled.
That is great.
Yes, and then we take it, but we have time.
The system worked correctly. You guys had a lot of good suggestions for her. She's got plenty of time to go back and rework some things. That is the way it should work.
And most of the time, people have not talked to the police, and they haven't talked to the fire department. They haven't, even the folks who have been through this so many times have never contacted me. We could have all of this done. In fact, many times I don't even hear from them, and I have to reach out and make sure that they get all of the documentation to me to make sure we get the contracts done beforehand. And it's really becoming a large time commitment for the staff to do all of these street
We're having some
closures.
internal conversations about reevaluating this, and actually maybe before they even come to council, that they have to have the signatures of the police chief and fire chief on the form demonstrating they actually did go and talk to people. So we're going to probably bring forward some changes in the next couple of months.
Turn 2 or 3 of them down because they didn't come in a timely way. I think the message would get out pretty quickly.
Well, and we've had some issues where we've had to, because of timing, with DePauw students wanting last minute.
Sometimes you don't see the ones
parties.
we've turned down in-house.
We have. I mean, we have turned them down. Sometimes this just happened that they got them in right, they came right before, but sometimes they're right after the meetings, and it's like, well,
and I
you're
guess
out of luck.
Yeah, you may also be asked to contact the police. I guess if there was just and maybe it's clear enough on the form, but I think, if we can get some more clarity on that process, I think that would be helpful. But it sounds like that's the direction we may be.
And to that point, I think that this is the sort of thing that could be easily accessible on the website, right? How
we got the form on there, but there's not really a.
Yeah, the forms are available. They're fillable PDFs on the website.
And we tell people well in advance when we talk to them, and we still get them in the day before or the day of, or
Now, quite frankly, I think some of this is a little unusual because we're getting out of COVID and more public events, but still, it's been a little, this month has been frustrating, so we're
never
going to
handled-
be rethinking some things.
We've never handled, well, rarely have we handled this big a volume of street closures.
Well, traditionally, there was only one, and technically, streets are to be handled by the Board of Works.
So we want to dump it off on them?
I'm just saying that that's what, where it,
It would
in my
give it-
personal opinion, or my
would
legal
give-
opinion, that's where it should be.
It would give another week.
But then the noise ordinance.
But the problem is, the noise ordinance is with you all. And,
I don't
and
want people
so,
jumping through hoops.
and that's definitely not customer friendly.
Yeah, come get a noise ordinance waiver, and then the next week or 10 days later, go to the Board of Works.
No,
for
'cause
a-
these-
Unless you all allowed them the authority to handle noise waivers too.
I'm not in favor of giving away more of our controls, personally. Could a small group of us do it pre-council meeting? Like, could we form a committee that, so council starts at 6:30 and here's noise and street closures?
I've already given you my legal opinion on who should be handling this.
Your legal opinion is have two different groups.
We'll work on it. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes, we have two sessions, the regular session of May 13th and the special session of May 25th. The minutes were included in your packets.
I'll move to accept both of them.
I'll make a counter motion and move to accept the regular meeting because I was not at the second meeting.
But legally, you can still.
I could, but I don't want to get into that habit because I wasn't there.
I'll second for the special session.
Okay. Look, Adam, will you motion to do May 13th?
Sure, you just, I'll motion to do
Will
May
you
13th.
second for May 13th?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of May 13th as presented. Any corrections? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, who's going to, Adam, will you do May 25th as a first?
Sure.
And Veronica as a second? Any corrections? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
One abstention.
And one abstention, sorry, Cody.
2 abstentions.
Next, we have approval of...
Abstention.
Yeah, is Mark Hammer? Or
No,
just one?
Jake.
Just Cody?
Just Cody.
Jake.
I
Oh,
was
Jake
not
was,
there.
yeah, that's right, Jake was not here, there you go. Sorry, I forgot to ask that. Next is approval of city claims. I think Dave was in today reviewing the claims.
Thank you, Dave.
We have payroll at $475,568.91. We have pensions at $18,508.98. We had a big month in direct payables. The biggest one is the new aerial tower truck. $1,269,322.57.
Yahtzee.
The Spiker has 4 claims in for sidewalks, totaling $26,306.50. Civil engineering has 4 invoices, 4 claims, totaling $45,102.41. Roughly 3/4 of that is for the engineering work on Locust Street. They've also done some engineering on Big Walnut Sports Park, Zick Mill Road, and school drives, lanes. Foyt's Construction, $93,189.53 for the Big Walnut Sports Park. We also sent Bona Vita Architecture $17,927.46 on the community center. Highland Product Groups, $5,260 for benches in the dugouts. And we have the usual Republic Services charge at $22,875. And we have the park bond, a payment to Old National Wealth of $52,850 in principal and interest. When it comes to the...
What's the total of that? That's got to be an all-time total.
Well, it's
record.
$1,550,000, $125.75.
That's got to be a record.
Thanks to the fire truck.
Yeah, 1.25 was the fire truck.
The Common Council claims are a lot smaller. We do have one for Boyle Construction for the outside work at the Aquatic Center at $36,245.17. Civil Engineering, April Engineering at $10,176. The Aquatic Center Engineering, HWC Engineering at $7,233. And Jack's Trash at $62.53 for the Clean City Day. That was so well appreciated. And then inside work at the Aquatic Center, Mammoth Inc., $22,681.51. Brad at the Street Department rented Crack and Seal at $15,126.75. And Spear Corporation at the park, $12.11, the big chunk of that for a new circulation pump. And you see the word park throughout these lists, all kinds of expenditures. You can tell we're opening the park again. With all that, I'll move that we accept the claims.
I will second that. Thank you, David.
Okay, any questions on the claims? Just a comment on the pump at the park. Normally, those pumps last about 5 to 8 years. That pump was the original pump put in the park 30 years ago.
So that pool's been there 30 years. Gee whiz.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Next item of business is the old business. This is Ordinance 2021-9, an ordinance establishing the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 Local Fiscal Recovery Fund for the City of Greencastle. This is second reading. Get to that.
Okay, if you'll see, I made a suggested change. I passed that out to you all, a suggested amendment which would incorporate the plan that you all have been working on, that you met on in a separate public session, and then we talked about earlier at the public hearing. So that would be just that. That's the only thing that was changed, was that one sentence that incorporated the plan. Before, it just referred to the plan instead of incorporating it, so now it incorporates it.
I'd make a motion to...
First, you have to vote on the amendment.
Oh, I'll make a motion to accept the amendment.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to incorporate the amendment, actually adopting the plan. Any further questions or discussion?
So what goes more, or what else goes into the creation of the plan?
That's the document that...
It's what I talked about at the public hearing?
Right, so this is being adopted then?
Yeah.
Without, okay. Just
The ordinance incorporates the plan. Before, it just referred to the plan because we weren't sure if we were going to get the plan complete or if we'd have changes to this, coming down from the federal to government, what they would say, and you know, and so anyway, it's all done. So, and I guess this is what the council met on. I wasn't able to be there.
Yeah.
So
On the 25th.
on the 25th, you all had that meeting.
That's what, that was the topic of the meeting, that you were tied up in Indiana. So. Okay, hearing no further discussion, please indicate your approval of the amendment by indicating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Now we can move to adoption of the ordinance. And for the benefit of the public, this does two things. It creates the fund that's required by State Board of Accounts to account for this federal money coming to the city, and then adopts the plan as Lori had mentioned.
I'll move to adopt ordinance 2021-9 as amended on second reading.
I will second.
I was going to die for lack of a second.
It's here, we're good.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance on second reading as amended. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now we move to new business. The first item of new business is Resolution 2021-6, a resolution reaffirming Resolution 2021-5 and declaring an economic revitalization area and recommended tax deduction for Phoenix closures. This is for new equipment. So read that. Whereas the laws of the state of Indiana, specifically IC 6-1.1-12.1-1, provide for the creation of economic revitalization areas within the corporate limits of the city of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, for the general purpose of providing property tax deductions to encourage private redevelopment of areas which have become undesirable for or impossible of normal development and occupancy because of lack of development, cessation of growth, deterioration of improvements or character of occupancy age, obsolescence, substandard buildings, other factors which have impaired values or prevent normal development of property or use of the property. And whereas the term economic revitalization area also includes any area where a facility or group of facilities that are technologically, economically, or energy obsolete are located, and where the obsolescence may lead to decline in employment and tax revenue, and whereas redevelopment means the construction of new structures in economic revitalization areas, either on unimproved real estate or on real estate upon which a prior existing structure is demolished to allow for new construction, and whereas rehabilitation means remodeling, repair, or betterment of property in any manner or any enlargement or extension of property, and whereas pursuant to applicable laws of the state of Indiana, the Greencastle Common Council may create said economic revitalization area through adoption of a resolution, and whereas the need exists to establish an economic revitalization area in order to encourage private redevelopment in the city of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, whereas Phoenix Closures, Inc. proposes redevelopment and rehabilitation of existing Greencastle facility by investing up to $6.8 million in new manufacturing equipment at their facility. Phoenix Closures, Inc. seeks a tax deduction pursuant to IC 6-1.1-12.1. And whereas a statement of benefits on State Form 51764, approved by the Department of Local Government Finance, has been submitted to the Common Council on April 15th, 2021, prior to the installation of new manufacturing equipment on such real estate by Phoenix Closures, and that such statement of benefits is attached hereto and marked Exhibit A. Whereas the Greencastle Common Council passed Resolution 2021-05 on May 13th, 2021, and advertised a public hearing for June 10th, 2021, and whereas the Greencastle Common Council, pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana, does now hereby find that 1, the estimate of the value of the new manufacturing equipment is reasonable for projects of that nature. 2, the estimate of the number of individuals who will be employed or whose employment will be retained can be reasonably expected to result from the proposed installation of new manufacturing equipment. 3, the estimate of the annual salaries of those individuals who will be employed or whose employment will be retained can reasonably be expected to result from the proposed installation of new manufacturing equipment. And 4, that other benefits about which information was requested are benefits that can be reasonably expected to result from the installation of new manufacturing equipment. And 5, the totality of the benefits is sufficient to justify a deduction. Therefore, based on these findings, be it resolved that the City of Greencastle, on this 10th day of June, pursuant to IC 6-1.1-12.1-1, deems there be a need to establish an economic revitalization area. That said economic revitalization area shall be as follows. What follows is a legal description and is commonly known as 2000 South Jackson Street. Therefore, the Greencastle Common Council does recommend a deduction of assessed value for a period of 10 years as a result of the installation of new manufacturing equipment as set forth in IC 6-1.1-12.1-4.5. The following abatement schedule applies to the eligible personal property that are part of the expansion project outlined in this resolution. And the schedule goes from year 1 with 100% deduction to year 10 with a 10% deduction, decreasing by 10% per year, year 11 and beyond 0% deduction. The City of Greencastle does not recommend tax abatement for special tooling, nor does Phoenix Closures request such abatement. The Greencastle Common Council further recommends and approve the application of the deductions herein be for improvements in equipment installed pursuant to the statement of benefits from the approval of this resolution and during the 24 ensuing months, June 2021 to May 2023, passed and resolved by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle at its regular session this 10th day of June 2021 with the necessary signature lines. So, sure, Kristen will be glad to answer any additional questions or follow-on questions.
Again, this is exactly what we talked about in the public hearing. Last month's meeting, we had the plant manager and the HR manager here to discuss their operations, and I would just strongly encourage you, they're a great employer, and I would just strongly encourage you to consider their request for abatement on new personal property.
Very rarely would I say something's a no-brainer, but this is as close as it comes. So I would move to adopt Resolution 2021-6 on first reading.
I would second that.
Including the no-brainer part?
No comment.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstention or nays? Okay, thank you. We'll get signed copies and everything to you.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Super, great. I am a little bit later on the agenda as well. I'm 2 more steps down. Would it be too confusing to continue?
Yeah, we'll just call you back up.
Okay,
So-
sounds good. I was hoping.
Sorry.
No.
No, that is okay.
In your packet was the annual TIF request that goes from the Redevelopment Commission to the county. The Redevelopment Commission has taken the past advice of City Council and made the request for 100%. So the letter is there. City Council does have to approve this request. So I would entertain a motion to adopt the Redevelopment Commission's recommendation.
So moved.
I will second Dave's motion.
Gary Lemon would.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the Redevelopment Commission recommendation. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is Ordinance 2021-10. This is an ordinance amending the text of the City of Greencastle, Indiana zoning ordinance. Whereas the City of Greencastle replaced its zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance on February 27, 2003. Whereas it is desirable in the city's best interest to amend the zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance as indicated below. Deleted language is indicated with strike-through and additional language is in italics. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle that it hereby amends the following sections of the zoning ordinance in the Greencastle City Code to read as follows. Zoning ordinance, Section 5.15, parking standards. Part 1, F3, shall be amended to read as follows. Recreational vehicle storage. The storage or parking of recreational vehicles, including travel trailers, boats, snowmobile or motorcycle trailers, etc., in residential zoning districts and associated with residential uses is subject to the following requirements. A recreational vehicle may be stored on a residential property, provided it is fully enclosed by a structure or located in the provided rear or side yard. A recreational vehicle may be parked on a residential lot outside of an enclosed structure or rear or side yard for a period of not to exceed the aggregate of 4 days, 96 hours in any 30-day period, but may not extend into right-of-way or block site triangle per Section 5.18 site visibility standards or otherwise create an unsafe traffic situation. Storage must not extend into the required side yard setbacks for that zoning district unless behind an approved privacy fence. B, no more than 2 recreational vehicles may be parked outdoors on a residential parcel at any one time. However, only 1 recreational vehicle may be kept in a side yard. In no case shall any recreational vehicle be parked on a residential parcel be used for overnight sleeping or living. D, the storage or parking of recreational vehicles in side yards must be on an improved surface. For the purposes of this section, improved is defined as gravel, stone, asphalt, or cement. If gravel or stone is used, it must be contained within a defined area with a physical border such as wood, or metal, wood, or block, etc. Storage under this section shall be for recreational vehicles only. In no case does this section affect the requirements set out in Section 5.17, Part 1A2, requiring pavement of driveways. E, a recreational vehicle shall not be stored or parked closer than 36 inches to a dwelling unit, 36 inches to an egress door, and 36 inches to an egress window. F, a recreational vehicle shall not be stored or parked in such a way as to interfere with the placement of fire department ladder that may be required for egress from a bedroom or basement window that serves as an emergency escape and rescue opening. Any applicable provisions of the State of Indiana 1 and 2 Family Dwelling Code, 67 IC 14 Indiana Residential Code, as amended, shall be followed. Section 5.21 Fence, Hedge, and Wall Standards. Part 1. These general fence, hedge, and wall standards apply to the following districts, all districts. A, general requirement, fences, hedges, walls shall be permitted in all zoning districts without a permit, subject to conformance with the following requirements. And this just covers Section 3, easements. Part A, if a lot or building site is encumbered by utility easements along the side, front, or rear lot lines, the installation of a fence shall not interfere with the installed utilities or access to the utilities. B, if a lot or building site is encumbered by a drainage easement or a natural drainage area, the installation of a fence or accessory structure shall not interfere or impede the flow of stormwater on the lot or building site. C, if a lot or building site is encumbered by utility easements, a drainage easement, or a natural drainage area along the side or rear lot lines, the location of a storage area for a recreational vehicle shall not interfere with the utilities, installed utilities, or access to utilities, nor interfere or impede the flow of stormwater on the lot or building site. Part 2 shall be amended to read as follows. A, height requirements. Fences, hedges, and walls shall not exceed 6 feet in height in any side or rear yard. Fences with open views, i.e. opacity level of 50% or more, may be constructed a maximum of 4 feet in height. Fences, hedges, and walls with less than 50% opacity shall not exceed 3 feet in height in any front yard. For the purposes of this requirement, the front yard shall be defined as areas located between any adjacent streets and the walls of the primary structure which face them. For lots intersecting streets, a 6-foot fence may extend into the front yard as illustrated below, and there's illustrations attached to the document. Prohibited fences. All electrified, barbed wire, razor wire, and stockade fences are prohibited on all lots not used for agricultural purposes. In no instances shall this be interpreted as prohibiting the use of invisible fences. Chain link fences shall be prohibited in all front yards. A fence shall not be located closer than 36 inches to any egress window or door. A fence shall not be located in such a way as to interfere with the placement of a fire department ladder that may be required for egress from a bedroom or basement window that serves as an emergency escape and rescue opening. At least one gate shall be provided from the front yard or public right-of-way to the fenced yard to allow for emergency access. The gate shall have a minimum width of 36 inches. Any applicable provisions of the State of Indiana 1 and 2 Family Dwelling Code, 67 IC 14 Indiana Residential Code, as amended, shall be followed. Definitions. Lot corner. A lot located at the corner of 2 or more intersecting streets. Corner lots shall have no rear yards. Front yards and side yards shall be as illustrated below. I'm sorry, I misspoke. The word no is actually removed. So, excuse me. Corner lots shall have rear yards, front yards, and side yards as illustrated below. Again, there's diagrams attached to the ordinance. Paved surface, a desirable surface for parking, driving, riding, or similar activities that utilize asphalt, concrete, brick, paving blocks, or similar material. Crushed gravel, stone, rock, or dirt, sand, or grass are not a paved surface. Rear yard, or yard rear, I'm sorry, the horizontal space between the nearest foundation of the building to the rear lot line, and that rear lot line extending to the side lines of the lot, and measured as the shortest distance from the foundation to the rear lot line. Corner lots shall have rear and side yards as illustrated below. All other terms and conditions within the zoning ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. This ordinance shall have full force and effect upon passage to the Greencastle Common Council and its approval by the mayor. proper signature lines are provided, and diagrams are attached to be incorporated in the ordinance. And there's also was the report from the Plan Commission, and there are questions. Scott is here to answer any questions.
I just had one question for you, Scott, and it's just to clarify what this means. Fences with open views, i.e. an opacity level of 50% or more, may be constructed at a maximum of 4 feet. What does that mean, an open view?
So essentially, for a picket fence, for example, the solid picket is only 50% of the fence, and the other 50% is the open space. Or a wrought iron fence, if it, wrought iron, the thin slats, would be able to be 4 feet. If you wanted to have a solid wooden or a stone wall fence, that would only be allowed to be 3 feet.
Thank you.
And that's only in front yards?
Correct.
Okay, because as Bill was reading it, I noticed that the 4 foot did not say only in front yards. It just said, because on the side yards and the rear yards, we have 6 foot high fences.
Well, the 6 foot is covered by the other section that explains where the side yard is.
So, I mean, it didn't say in front yards there, and then it wanted to talk about it was less than 50%, and it said, and at that point it did say in any front yard. So I think we need to add in any front yard to that. In page 2, part 2A, the first bold under the IE at the end of that sentence, may be constructed at a maximum of 4 feet in height in any front yard, just like it does in the next sentence.
That does make sense, yes.
Okay.
Makes it clear.
We're raising it from 3 feet to 4 feet?
Correct.
It's really not, I mean, I'm just curious why. That's not my questions on all this. I'm just curious. It doesn't seem like that much of a raise.
To many people, it does, because they have animals, dogs in particular.
That makes sense now. Okay, that makes sense. That's all you needed.
And standard sizes.
Okay.
Yeah, fence boards come in standard sizes.
I had a couple questions on the RV thing, because this is always confusing.
First, before you do, maybe Scott should go over the definition of recreational vehicle, because it's not what you really maybe consider what a recreational vehicle would be.
That actually was one of my questions. So,
per our code, that includes travel trailers, boats, snowmobiles or motorcycle trailers, pickup truck coaches. So the term RVs does hit several different areas, including trailers.
Okay.
Does it touch on ATVs and such? So, because I often see RVs either trailering or taking along ATVs of some sort.
I think those are considered similar to those other items. In fact, I know I've sent letters out pointing out that there's, in staff opinion, this is a similarity that is defensible.
So when you say 2, it allows 2, that can mean the boat, but the thing that the boat's sitting on, the trailer that it's sitting on. So when people think, oh, 2,
I got that one.
Right
That's
now,
all one? Is that one then?
That would be 2.
So the boat.
That would be 2.
The boat is 1, even though it's not a trailer of itself, and the trailer that it's on
That's
is
correct.
second. Okay.
So that's why, I just want to make sure everybody was clear on that. So.
What did you just say about pickup trucks?
Pickup truck coaches.
Cab.
That would be the cab.
Oh, the top
of the bed. Might even go over the top of the cab.
But not a normal pickup truck.
No, not a normal pickup truck. And in fact, I think I followed up Plan Commission meeting question that Mark had about does this inadvertently prohibit being able to park in your driveway? And it doesn't change 5.17 entrance/drive standards, vehicle storage and parking. In no instance shall this be interpreted as prohibiting the parking of vehicles in a residential drive.
Then, what this really does, though, is it allows recreational vehicles, by your definition, to be parked in the front of the house?
No, no.
For
not
4
in the
days.
front, not
So
in
what is this changing?
For 4 days.
What are we changing here?
Side yards.
We're adding the side yard.
Yeah. 'cause
Well,
there's
and
always
what I
rear.
appreciate about this is that it is making it more expansive as to what the property owner can do as opposed to what's already in our own ordinances. So it might be getting more to what people are actually doing, but it's still a limitation. But yeah, it is more expansive than what we've already got in our code.
Would this have any impact, doing this, would this have impact on property values on their neighbors?
That is a question that really can't.
Subjective.
Yeah, you'd have to do a study on that. I don't know.
Scott, I have a question. The 2 or 3 people residents that I've dealt with that were in violation didn't know what the rules were. So if we take a step back, how do we educate our people that move in on what our zoning ordinances are? I mean, is it up to them to come to City Hall and find out, or is there a way of closing, they get a copy of it? Or, because it seems like, people aren't breaking the rules on purpose, and then they're very surprised when they get in trouble.
We discussed also at Plan Commission ways to better inform people. One is through the Board of Realtors, but also, because not every realtor is a member of the Board of Realtors, working with some of our primary real estate agencies to send this out. Also, including it with any accessory structure permit, that includes pools, that includes driveways. So through that process, would be able to inform them. Can also include it as a feature item, I would assume, on our city webpage.
They don't get fined the first time. You issue them a warning.
What we do, our code says, once they're informed of a violation, they have 15 days to correct it. I have always taken the approach that if you contact me, I begin to work with you on a time schedule we can agree to. But if
buy an RV.
If I never hear from anyone, it continues to sit there. I check with other ways to be in touch with the property owner and still nothing, then I need to issue that fine. That sometimes that brings people into a more earnest conversation.
I guess I want to go back.
But part of the, but you're also talking about building code issues, and Pat might be more inclined to give a pretty strict fine on swimming pools and things like that, especially items that are safety issues.
Well, a swimming pool is a
So
safety
somebody's
issue.
got to park beside a bedroom window. It's clearly in violation of that. That's
a safety issue.
More of a safety issue.
And we actually had a situation within the last year where someone had constructed a privacy fence against a neighboring house that potentially prevented egress from the house in the case of a
Actually,
fire.
Pat brought that up as we were, talking about this among staff. He said, the discussion came up is, does the building code affect this discussion? And he went back and looked it up, and he said, well, we really should be thinking about these things. So he's done a great job for us on this, and it truly has been a team effort among staff members as we talk about some of these things and to try to anticipate stuff.
I guess I want to go back to the question you kind of hedged on. I hate zoning deals because I hate it when they come to us. I never feel like I'm smart enough to figure them out.
You hate what?
Zoning. Zoning is the part that just, it is what it is.
Well, planning and zoning, the board discussed it for hours.
That's what I want. Did they discuss it?
They tabled it for one meeting and did research and came back and talked. We were here how many hours? 3 or 4?
Did they specifically talk about impact?
Seems
Well, I always go back to, at least for me, on almost every zoning question is, what is the impact on the neighbor's property value to what we're doing, to the neighborhood?
And to
Was
be
that
able
discussed?
to specifically say value from an actual dollar standpoint, we can't do that.
Right,
But we did spend a significant amount of time discussing visual character of the neighborhood. We tried to consider that in some neighborhoods this might have greater visual impact than in others, but we have to treat these from zoning districts.
Okay.
We talked about keeping it enclosed. That's why it's worded the way it is, so that if it is with rock instead of require, we had a big debate about whether it should be paved versus rock, but if it is enclosed so that people wouldn't mow and kick rocks out to their neighbors. So now it's enclosed, like with a barrier of some sort. So, I mean, we did consider all of those things. Plus, it would be visually better if it's on the side, in a side yard, that it had a barrier. But we thought it was probably unreasonable to make people in the 2 Mile Fringe pave the area in their backyard where they would park a small trailer when the rest of their drive is gravel.
So my question would be, how many people are going to have to go lay stone out next to their house for to park their RV, and how many folks are going to have to tear out their chain link fence in the front yard?
For the chain link fence, if they've got it, they aren't required to remove it.
It'd be great.
If it were, for example, a 6-foot chain link fence that wasn't legally meeting the height requirement anyway, that would be an issue. I'm not aware of any of those. Regarding the parking, how many are going to have to put in stone? The point is that in looking at, and I provided for Plan Commission a variety of places from those letters that I sent out a year ago that kind of represented some of the problem areas. Many of those stored vehicles are in fact already on gravel. They just weren't legal. So this would make that legal if it were, a defined area. I'm probably not going to be able to go inspect each and every RV trailer site in Greencastle, but I think there's a pretty clear idea of where there are some that are very visible that led to this point.
The ones in the driveways won't be allowed unless they're on the side driveway, but the ones in the front are going to have to move. So those will have to find a place. But there aren't too many that are just sitting on grass on the side
Correct.
of houses.
Not too many.
When you say,
In fact, I can't think of any.
Out that if a property simply can't meet these standards, there's some physical shape of the lot that prevents that, they can apply for a variance of development standards. They have to prove that there is a practical difficulty in being able to use their property this way, but there is always that recourse.
Like they have no side yard to mention, to speak of.
when you said egress, so if somebody has their RV in their front lawn, front driveway for 4 days, you said it cannot affect the egress. That means the sidewalk and the street, or just the street?
Well, it does, aside from that, it can't block a right-of-way.
Just a sidewalk, too.
So that's all I want to includes the sidewalk, right?
So I think when you're talking about egress, I was
for
talking
ADA
about getting out of
purposes,
the
you
building
can't
in
block
case
our
of a fire.
sidewalk.
Okay, I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
Egress
Lori
does
got
get
what I
used
wanted.
for driveway access and things like that.
Okay, Lori got, the sidewalk stays clear. That's all I wanted to know. Sorry, I misphrased that.
Scott, I think I understand this, and correct me if I'm wrong. There are places in the Second Ward that have covenants that are more strict than this, particularly on the fencing. It is not our responsibility. The neighborhoods have to enforce their covenants, and many times the residents don't even know about the covenants. So this is just across the board within the city limits, right? Okay.
And the 2 Mile Fringe or not? We can't create something for the city and then the 2 Mile Fringe separate to give them more.
Well, if they have different zoning areas, like for ag and ag rural.
Okay.
But we have ag and ag rural in town too, and we have different, it's just for the zoning. It can't be just for the 2 Mile Fringe,
Yeah, okay.
And we always encourage people, if they're uncertain about something, come in and ask. We're more than happy to help people out. and answer questions before they get themselves in trouble, or potentially get themselves in trouble. We're always happy to answer questions.
But it's a constant problem about signs and what you could put in your yard, what you can put in your businesses, what you could, fencing, and where you can put post office boxes, and where you, every single, it's just always constant. And our zoning book is this thick, and so it's hard to keep people up on every single thing that they're...
The question had been raised, well, should we require permits then for fences?
We talked about that.
To be able to monitor and track these sort of things. That was considered, but just not realistic for our level of staffing.
No, it'd be more work for you all. We just talked about too much work on the...
But on the other hand, people will call and complain the minute somebody puts one in that's 4 inches off, and want us to do something about. It's
Well, there was the whole case in Florida with the flag was too big, so the pole was too big, so they built a mound on the property, then put the flagpole back in, then put the flag on top, and now it became so somebody could mount up their.
You all have
I understand what you're saying.
Hours, but days on this.
We have.
So I have confidence that what you have come up with here will work with a little bit of judgment. So I move that we approve ordinance amending the text of the City of Greencastle, Indiana zoning ordinance on first reading.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions on the matter? Hearing none, please indicate your approval for first reading by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Scott. Next is Resolution 2021-7, a resolution to...
Excuse me, 2021-11.
Sorry.
Kristen stood up, too.
Ordinance number 2021-11, ordinance amending ordinance 2020-7, an ordinance establishing the size of the departments of city government of the City of Greencastle, Indiana, fixing salaries for the employees of such departments, and fixing the salaries of certain other appointed officials for the year 2021. Section 4, that the street department shall consist of up to 9 full-time members and 2 part-time members, or 8 full-time members and 3 part-time members. We are asking to make the change to allow either a full-time or part-time mechanic at an hourly rate of $22.71. Section 10, that the utility department shall consist of up to 19 full-time members, 2 part-time members, and 1 summer intern. And Linda is requesting a records clerk in the amount of $17.75. This is passed and adopted by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle this blank day of blank 2021 with proper signature lines. So I'll let Linda explain the changes to the salary ordinance.
Okay, so Brad has lost his part-time mechanic, and he is finding it very difficult to fill that position with a part-time person. So he asked if we could work it out to where he could have a full-time person, and we said, yeah, we could probably make that work. If not, the street department would be having to take all of their repairs out to commercial mechanics, and he has lots of repairs, and it would cost us a lot of money. So we're asking for that change. Then currently, we are down to 1 utility clerk in the utility office, which is fine because we're going to have some changes. However, we are finding that things are changing and requiring more of us, that records, keeping records, getting them scanned in and all that is becoming quite the job. And we're now getting more and more requirements that we have to put things out on Gateway, and they have to, all kinds of things. So since I have cut a position in the utility office, I have freed up dollars in the utility, and they do have a lot of records that have not been scanned in, that need to be gone through the retention schedule. And so I am asking that for the rest of this year that we put a records clerk, and it will be paid out of those 2, and we'll start working on the utilities. And then in 2022, I will ask that we will split that position amongst the whole city 3 ways. I will give you one quick example. I know times, but since Jason has taken over the cemetery, he has years and years of receipts at the cemetery, copies of receipts, all the way back to like 70s. Okay.
1870s.
So you're like, okay, why does he need those? Well, what we have to realize that people sometimes buy their plots 20 years in advance, 5 years in advance, 15. So if all of a sudden there's a discrepancy and was not added correctly in his book, he needs to be able to go back to those receipts. Right now, he goes to a closet and hopes he finds it. If we can take those hundreds of receipts, get them put into Laserfish, he then can go to his computer and put in a few keywords, and those will all pull up. So, you know, right now, they're there. We think they're safe. However, in the event of a tornado, a flood, or something, they could be gone, and that's priceless. And Lori can tell us how terrible it is if we bury somebody in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
We've been through that.
We've
and
been
it's-
through that.
And it's bad.
So
It's bad.
And we actually did lose a lot of cemetery records decades ago when the old cemetery office burned down.
So, we have a very sophisticated scanning document organizer here that is on the cloud, and so we just do not have the time or the personnel, so we would like to add a person that will take that and get that all taken care of.
Makes sense.
Yep.
So-
I move to approve ordinance 2021-11, an ordinance amending salary ordinance 2020-7, an ordinance establishing the size of the departments of city government of the city of Greencastle, Indiana, fixing salaries for the employees of such department, and fixing the salaries of certain other appointed officials for the year 2021 on first reading.
Now, when we pass it on second reading, you have to do the same, but in one breath.
I will be prepared.
Got a
Do you
month
need this
to
tonight?
exercise.
Should we do this tonight so we get a mechanic and start scanning?
Do you want to wait
second reading?
I'm just asking because, I mean, the
It might take a
mechanic,
while.
Well,
the
I
mechanic
mean,
could be expensive.
I suppose he could already start interviewing before we even.
I mean, well, we already have the part-time position in the salary ordinance, so it could potentially, if he has a candidate, we could start him out part-time, and then,
Yeah.
once this is passed, it can move to full-time.
Okay, just made the offer.
Yeah.
We just don't like to get in that.
I'll second.
I don't like to do either, but
And by the way, his previous mechanic, Clint, what's Clint's last name? Was outstanding. Shout out for Clint. He was
Yeah.
exceptional.
Walmart asked him to come full-time, and we lost him.
He worked full-time and then came and worked for us for years. Outstanding, outstanding
I know.
person.
So is this the same rate we were paying the part-time?
Yes.
Okay, we're just adding potentially to have it be full-time.
Right, to be full-time.
Okay.
Of course, we'll have to figure out the benefits and all that. I mean, it's a little tricky to get that to happen, but we'll figure something out.
Okay.
gosh, tricky it'll be if those mechanics go
Since it's
down.
after 9 o'clock, I'd like to call the question.
All those in favor of adoption of the ordinance on first reading, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions?
Okay, Kristen.
Okay, Kristen, sorry.
Poor Kristen.
This is Resolution 2021-7, a resolution declaring an economic revitalization area in Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana for Chiota USA Corporation.
It's my pleasure to introduce Kevin Redding, who is the very first American president of Chiota. So it's always been Japanese in the past. Kevin took over in 2018, and so he is the president and runs the plant out there. So I sent an email out to everybody. I hope that everybody received that, was able to receive that. Very good. Chiota has had some workforce issues, and because of those workforce issues, they're really trying to modernize some of their operations, get some more robotics in there, so that they can take those entry-level positions and do away with those positions so that they can skill up the people that are working those to a better level and a higher skill. So really, Chiota has been very progressive in recognizing that We hear talk about the federal minimum wage and that kind of thing, and in my opinion, markets regulate that, but Chiota's a perfect example. They weren't getting the workforce they needed, and so therefore they continued to raise that rate, and so that was beneficial, and then COVID hit. So when Kevin took over in October of 2018, he had 5 months to start turning it around and was doing a really good job, and then COVID hit, and so you can't control that, and so they have had some issues. But they have already introduced some robotics equipment, which they did not ask for abatement on, but now they've got a comprehensive plan that they want to go in for. So I've included the SB1 for you guys to look at. And so that was going to be $850,000 for manufacturing equipment and another $210,000 for IT equipment. So they've hired some new engineers on there to start configuring all those. And again, Bill and I were out there last Wednesday with a representative from the state. They are applying for a state grant for some workforce initiatives. And Kevin is here if you have any questions for them. I don't know if you're familiar with Chiota. They're a Tier 1 supplier to Subaru. And so he's going to just briefly share what their product is and how they go about it.
Hi, my name is Kevin Redding. Thanks for taking time out tonight. Most of you probably know about Chiota, and Chiota's reputation unfortunately hasn't been stellar in the community. One of the goals that I have here is to change that, and it started really day one to talk to my group and let them know that I want Chiota to become a workplace destination, not a pariah in the community. So one of the things that we've really started to focus on is kind of refocusing on community and becoming a good corporate citizen. And we started working through just very slowly getting through some donations, but as you may have known, Chiota has been struggling financially. So we are a Tier 1 supplier to Subaru. We do about $70 million in revenue a year, and we supply interior and exterior parts to Subaru. So like I said, our goal here is that we want to revitalize the company and bring it out of the kind of the 1980s and bring it actually up to at least the 2000s, if not beyond. So we've been spending a lot of time and money to put in robotics. We've introduced a new manufacturing engineering group. We're now building our own robotics in-house and deploying those, and we look to increase that automation effort. The goal is not to remove people from work, but redeploy them in areas where they're needed, but then also to hire people at a much higher skill level and obviously at a higher pay level as well.
The people you're going to redeploy, would there be any opportunities for them to move up into the higher skill level, or is that just not probably practical?
It depends on their desire and skill set. We are looking at different training opportunities for people to be able to provide them levels to skill up. We haven't put a comprehensive plan together. We recently, our old HR manager just left and we hired a new HR manager. So we're in the kind of in the beginnings of deploying a new training strategy.
But if any of y'all are looking for a job, they'd take you on because they are in desperate need of. We were on the floor, so we were taking a plant tour, and we were on the floor, and he said, if you see the orange vest, they're 90 days in or less. They're training. If you see the navy blue shirts, then they are our floor people. If you see the gray shirts, they are our management that we're putting on the floor. And if you see the off-white shirts, we've taken them from Japan. They're Japan managers, and they brought them over here just so we can get product out. So they're taking it very seriously. Like I said, they started at about $11 an hour about 3 years ago. They're up to $13.50. So they're very serious about staying competitive and continuing to raise that with the skill level that they're raising.
This is a citywide, I mean, it's a countrywide problem, but I don't have any solution. I don't know where we even start.
I'd like to say I met Kevin 2 years ago or 3 years ago and have approached Chiota for several community fundraising donations and Special Olympics. There were several of them, and they were more than willing. I think every time we've gone to them and asked. So we appreciate that, and we know that you're working towards that, and yeah, that's great.
I like hearing that you're honest about this reputation and stuff, not coming up here and trying to sugarcoat it.
It's, you can't. I mean, I'm new to the community. I'm originally from Michigan. My past 15 years prior to moving here, I was in Western Pennsylvania. My wife is originally from Greensburg. Her parents were from Greensburg and Batesville. So this is technically her home. We moved here back here for her and her family. So. It's, I don't know the best way to put it, but it's, I've never been the type of person to sugarcoat it, candy coat it. This is what it is. This is what we're dealt with, and this is what we need to do to move forward. And really, that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is trying to change Chiota's reputation in the community. One of the very first things I did when I got here is, I don't know if you drove down 240, is we hired a power washer to come wash the side of the building. It was algae growing on the side of it. It was horrific. It didn't look like a place that anybody wanted to work. So we cleaned up the outside of the building. I recall when we were working very late nights. I pulled in one Sunday, and there was no cars in the parking lot. I was the only one there, and it was like I had driven into an abandoned building. The landscape had overgrown, and it was just in really poor shape. So we have to have pride in the places that we work in. So we hired a landscape contractor to come in and put in the expense even when we didn't really have that expense to give. It was critical to start with a good baseline of operations. So those are the things that we're trying to do is we're almost kind of taking the business back to step one and then slowly building it up to where we think it needs to be. And over the past several years, like I said, there have been a lot of issues. I know that there's been a lot of concern about drugs within Chiota. We've modified our drug policy. We've modified our drug testing. We have a very, very strict policy on drug testing now. We've been able to identify and remove some issues within the company that were promoting that. So I think we're taking some pretty good steps forward.
And what was the starting salary again?
So our starting wages, coupled with about a little over a year ago, were about $11 an hour. We raised those up to $13 an hour to start, and I'll say it now because it's coming out in a memo. We're actually increasing our wages tomorrow. So our starting wage will be $14 an hour for temporary, and then $14.50 for full time. But please don't say that. I know it's. I haven't sent the memo out yet, so.
You're on TV.
Remember, you're on live TV tonight.
But we know that no one watches us because we have students analyze it.
And we're over 2 hours into the meeting. Whoever was watching has already turned it off.
It's not a surprise. It's not confidential. It's going to be, like I said, it'll be announced.
In 12 hours, it'll be.
So again, and part of it is in response to our desire to incentivize people to come back to work. We want to promote a more well-paying environment for the folks in Greencastle.
And you get what you pay for.
Right? Ultimately, yes. Yes. And we have to obviously be able to balance that out with the needs of the business too. So there's only so much we can do with what we have, and we're working to. Again, we're working to build a more skilled workforce within Chiota. Like I said, by introducing a lot more robotics and automation.
And Kristen, could you talk to this about what's the average starting wage or starting hourly wage for the companies that receive our abatements?
Right, so that's really, it runs the gamut, but we will say that Chiyoda and Heartland were notorious for being the low payers. Now Chiyoda's trying to raise their standards. Phoenix, that we just awarded, they're at about $18.50 an hour. The distributions, they've kicked it up as well because they simply need the bodies to get it out, and they are more national. You have to remember that Chiyoda's headquartered right here. It's their only North American plant, so, or North American headquarters are right here. So, but they do have to answer to Subaru too, and they need to keep producing product to get up to them. So I will say that they're now starting to fall in line with some of those manufacturing needs at about between $14 and $16 an hour. So.
The other thing that happens is, like, Phoenix has a 2-year training program that you start out, and if you progress through their training steps, you get a substantial wage, and you end up with a substantial wage increase at the end of that 2-year period. And there's a number of other companies in town that do similar sorts of things. But the employee has to be willing to go through that training and stick it out. If they do, they can be quite successful.
And we really are thinking that we're going to see a shift in employment with the unemployment coming to an end with this extra $300 and some of that are decisions being made at the federal level as well as at the state level. So we have talked to some of those people, and they know it's coming to an end, and they are looking to start getting back to work. So I hope that that's going to just improve our entire economic health of our community, because all of our major employers do need some people helping.
Even
that are
minor,
willing to work.
Even minor employers.
Exactly.
Are there people being laid off at IAC that fit the needs of Chiyoda, or are they pretty mutually exclusive?
There could be some. IAC doesn't start layoffs until July 23rd, but there might be. So the difference there is they were a union shop. This is a Japanese-run company with no union, but that doesn't mean that they don't have transferable skills. So it might be a good opportunity for those that might want to stay local and re-employ. With IAC, they filed their WARN Act, and they do fall under the
TAA?
Yeah, TAA, which when jobs go overseas or when jobs, that there's additional federal benefits to that, and so that extends their unemployment for a little bit. So IAC people have been working hard too, and so I don't know if they're going to take advantage of those unemployment opportunities or not. But in the meantime, we're working with Area 30 Adult Ed really hard to see if we can't get some of those people that have maybe fallen between the cracks shored back up and back into the workforce.
I know several companies outside of Putnam County are already trying to poach the IAC.
Oh, yes. We had 6 or 8 phone calls from HR managers.
Yes, I knew one of those HR managers, and she's been all over this place.
Yeah.
So,
yes. And we continue to see more growth at 70 and 39 with the warehouses, and they're going to need people. And Sealy just announced up in Crawfordsville, so they're going to want some of those people eventually, and that's in 2023.
Well, I like hearing this 14 because now we're getting closer to what we've debated what living wage is here, but
yeah, very fair.
We're getting much closer into what the bottom of our bottom of our living wage is.
Exactly.
So.
And like Kevin said, he got here, he started to turn that tide around, and then COVID hit. So I mean, it's a company culture change, and they are working through that. So.
Well, I feel bad I had to sit through everything, but I've never had anybody this honest in front of us before. So.
Appreciate the candor.
So we are going to ask that you consider the request for approving the first reading of the resolution to declare it an economic revitalization area.
We'll be back next month.
And then we'll be back next month for the public hearing, and we'll do all the paperwork, just like we did for Phoenix. Usually we might do 1 or 2 a year, but they don't happen back to back, but this one just happened to. And it's because they applied for something, they're working through some of those details with the state, and so we came out to visit them, and we started talking tax abatement. They're like, we're getting ready to put in this new robotic system. We've already added some pieces, but now we're going to put in a comprehensive system. So we're like, okay, let's work through abatement. So that's what we're here for. So please consider it, and the mayor will move forward.
Do some more reading.
Yeah. Do some more reading, exactly.
Well, this is a little shorter. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Greencastle, Indiana has determined that it would be in the best interest of the citizens of Greencastle, Indiana, if such Common Council defined and declared a certain area within the city as an economic revitalization area. And whereas IC 6-1.1-12.1-1 to IC 6-1.1-12.1-2.5 defines the procedure for establishing such an economic revitalization area. And whereas the Common Council desires to make available to persons owning property in such economic revitalization area the right to a deduction from the assessed value of real property is defined in IC 6-1.1-12.1-3, and a deduction for manufacturing equipment, logistics, distribution equipment, research and development equipment, and information technology equipment as defined in IC 6-1.1-12.1-4.5. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle, Indiana as follows. What follows is the legal description of the Chiota site, which I don't have a street address, but we all know where it is. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped it over.
Right at the very bottom.
Anyway, 2, that the above described real estate is deemed by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle to be an economic revitalization area within the corporate limits of the City of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, which has become obsolete and not lending itself to normal development because of the availability of other development ground within the city, which is qualified for tax abatement, and because of a cessation or lack of growth in the general area, which is anticipated to lead to the deterioration of the area and continued stagnation of employment within the City of Greencastle. This said area is not utilized as an area to promote industrial expansion for the City of Greencastle. 3, that in order to be competitive in attracting new industrial prospects to the City of Greencastle, Indiana, and new investment by existing industry, it is imperative that such city offer to prospective new industries locating in and existing industries investing in the above described area up to the maximum tax abatement as allowed by law. That the Common Council now resolves that the above designated area shall be declared an economic revitalization area under the terms and provisions of IC 6-1.1-12.1-2.5. That this resolution shall be published pursuant to the provisions of IC 5-3-1, and a copy of this resolution shall be provided to the Putnam County Assessor's Office for inspection therein. That after due publication, a public hearing shall be held at the time set forth in the public notice notifying of the passage of this resolution, at which time this Common Council shall receive and hear all remonstrances and objections, determine whether or not the qualifications for an economic revitalization area have been met, and take final action upon this resolution. Passed and resolved by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle at its regular meeting this 10th day of June 2021 with the appropriate signature lines. I will happily entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-7.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the Resolution 2021-7. Are there any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. Last item of business.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks for staying to the bitter end.
Government at work. Okay, our last resolution is 2021-8, a resolution authorizing application submission and local match commitment. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Greencastle, Indiana, Putnam County, Indiana, authorizing the submittal of the CDBG WDW Water Grant application to the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs and addressing related matters. Whereas the City of Greencastle, Indiana recognizes the need to stimulate growth and to maintain a sound economy within its corporate limits, and whereas the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, as amended, authorizes the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs to provide grants to local units of government to meet the housing and community development needs of low and moderate income persons and/or the elimination of blight, and whereas the City of Greencastle has conducted or will conduct public hearings prior to the submission of an application to the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs, said public hearings to assess the housing, public facilities, and economic needs of its low and moderate income residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greencastle in Putnam County, Indiana, that 1, the City of Greencastle's mayor is authorized to prepare and submit an application for grant funding to address water issues within the city's water service area and to execute and administer a resultant grant, including requisite general administration and project management, contracts and agreements pursuant to the regulations of the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs and the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. 2, the City of Greencastle is committing the requisite local funds in the amount of $1,210,687.00 in the forms of 1, $5,000 previously paid for environmental review, and 2, $1,205,687 in the city's 603 water improvement funds as matching funds for said program, Such commitment to be contingent upon receipt of CDBG WDW funding from the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs, adopted by the City Council of the City of Greencastle in Putnam County, Indiana, this 10th day of June 2021, with appropriate signature lines. The language that is provided is provided by Okra, and so we have to follow their language. So I will entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-8.
So moved.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as presented. Is there any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, we got signature copies coming around.
Before we adjourn,
Yeah, go ahead.
can I say, the Micro Kiki recipient, you didn't talk about that.
I'm sorry, I didn't even write
Okay,
down.
so
Yeah,
the person
please.
who got the scholarship this year is Ahi Yoshinaga. She's one of my favorite people in the whole world. She moved here when she was a freshman from Japan and struggled her first year being so far away from home, but then got so entrenched in the school and in all the activities. She sings, she is an artist, she's in theater, and she kind of stole the show, ran away with the show her sophomore year. So then she got so entrenched in all of it, she wanted to stay, and she's in the top 10% of her class. She sang Sarah Brightman, Phantom of the Opera during the variety show this year. She wants to be a doctor. She's going to DePaul.
Most important thing is right there.
She's as nice as she can be and extremely successful, top 10%, and she's just a really, really, really great kid. Played Morticia Addams in the Addams Family. You can't get any better than that. And just a delightful person.
Very outstanding young woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
I will happily entertain a motion to adjourn. In 2.5 hours, we accomplished quite a lot this evening.
we
So
did.
thank you very much for your patience.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
Oh, sure.
I just wanted to say that I wanted to come and let you all know 2.5 hours later. I really appreciate Rod and Krista at the carpool. They have done a fabulous job. And Linda for coming over yesterday to help in the concession stands. If you don't know, I'm a concession stand manager. Here since school's out. And they have done an amazing job. I didn't realize how much went into it until you're actually in it. And so I'm calling, I work at Deer Meadows, so I'm calling at 6 o'clock in the morning, hey, I need the card to go to Walmart for this, and I work after the school year actually ends, so I'm calling Rod at 8 o'clock at night, hey, I need to go to Kroger because I work all day tomorrow, and I'll be there in 5 minutes, I'll get your card, So they have went above and beyond to help me out, so.
That's great.
Big shout out to them. And to Linda for coming over yesterday.
And Joanna also is a member of our Park and Recreation Board, and so she sees both sides of it, and now she's getting to see the inside operation.
And thanks to Linda, I have to have them today.
Good.
Yeah.
No health violations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joanna. It's too bad you weren't here for public petitions and comments.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
There were too many people.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can opener. You know what? I tried to get people to chef. I settled for
Bye.
We appreciate having her running the concession stand for us. She's doing a great job. And when she volunteered for the job, we just said, you got one thing, break even.
Yeah.
At the very least.
At the very least.
So.
They might make it.
It's
But
running,
I think,
it's running
I
well.
think this year, I think we're going to do real well. I agree.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Did I hear that
I
from
did,
Jay?
yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Second?
I bet Dave's seconding it.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mark.
Cody, 6 weeks.
Make sure